Hello, happy, what's today? Monday, GM. Um, I don't know where Chris is. He may not be here today. He's still dealing with that thing. So I had a couple of topics I want to talk about, but I really kind of want to wait for Chris. And so if other guests have topics they want to bring on, we can do that today. I haven't really checked Twitter or the news yet, so let me do that right now. It's been I fly out tomorrow. There's no show tomorrow. It's a travel day. And we'll be back on Wednesday at our normal time, 2 p.m. Oh, Lord. Teen shot and killed at a park um, in my town. It wasn't the park by me, but still. Okay, well, that's local news. Let's see. Let's go on the U.S. Nothing. What's going on in the world? Elon Musk visits Israel. Oh, my God, that tweet drama is still going on. Missiles fired from Yemen toward U.S. warship. Why are they kicking up this way? That's is that just like, does it come in cycles like that? That's just the way they normally act and it's built up, or do they know something we don't that's giving them, emboldening them to start making it like Hamas attacked Israel, Yemen attacked our warships. I saw something about Turkey trying to send a fleet to help Gaza. Are they not scared of us anymore? I don't know what's going on with that. I don't really have anything to talk about. Let me pull up Twitter. I mean, I do, but I want to save it for people. I have two topics. One of them is science. I'm seeing a lot of ignorance on these panels lately about, granted, they're truth or conspiracy panels, but still, about what science actually is. They're getting it confused with, I think, what people call big science, which is kind of the, I don't want to call it, it's kind of political. It's the scientific apparatus it's the apparatus that grows up around the activity of science in some countries or some settings that kind of organizes and communicates that science. But that's not science itself. And so they're really skeptical about science. But it seems like more like they're talking about that. It's the same, like conspiracy theorists in general seem to not trust government or authority. So it's a variation of that mistrust in authority. They believe that science are like priests that go off into the inner sanctum and come back with pronouncements that the rest of us accept as reality. That's not the science part. And so they mistrust. Some of them are flat earthers too. So stuff like that. If science says the earth is round, they don't trust that because they think that science is accepting the authority of experts. So I don't want to get too much into it because I want to save it for when there's a panel. And we got a discussion earlier today on law and what laws are for and what laws, like, I don't follow every single law, and I don't think anybody does. Like, there's certain traffic laws that we make in the moment judgments about, and maybe skirt a little bit. And The comment was made that murder, of course, is wrong and illegal, but is stealing diapers really something? Yes, it's technically illegal, but is it really something that we have to worry about? And my position was, yes, stealing diapers is illegal. If it bothers you enough, go change the law and make it legal or start some nonprofit that provides diapers or something. But don't just start to erode the laws and kind of lay off on the enforcement just because, like, if each individual gets to determine when to follow and not follow the law, which, as I said, I kind of do the same thing with minor laws that don't seem to impact anything. Like, I jaywalk all the time, and in a lot of places that's not illegal, but in Seattle, the law, as I understand it in Seattle at least, if it hasn't changed, is if it's in a crosswalk, it's jaywalking. If you cross any time where you don't have a signal, it's considered jaywalking, and you will get a $250 traffic fine or something. But that if it's in the street, like just in the middle of the street to the other side of the street with no crosswalk, that it's not illegal. So it's whether it's done in a crosswalk or not that makes it illegal. So I jaywalk all the time. I just walk outside the crosswalk, just on the side of it. Like, I grew up on a highway, and we were taught to look both ways before we cross. I know how to cross the street and see if cars are going to hit me or not. So if I'm in a city and there's no cars coming, I'm not going to sit there and wait for some random arbitrary light before I can continue on my way. I'm just going to go. That just makes the most sense to me. The law itself seems stupid. It's stupid enough for me to not care about obeying. So those are some of the things I want to talk about that have come up on Discord discussions and live streams lately. And then there's the usual stream drama, which I don't even like to get into anymore because it's just the same stuff over and over and over. It's like junior high lunch table cliques and what happened at whose table and who's talking about who and who said this about that person at their table and who went to this other table and said something. Maybe we could incorporate it to our streaming movie we're trying to do. So, let's see. I have my banner on. So if anybody wants to come on and talk, Chris was supposed to be here at 2, but I don't know where he is. So I'm kind of carrying the show by myself today, and I really don't have a lot to talk about alone. I have plenty I want to talk about with the panel because it's really supposed to be a panel show. Let me see if there's any YouTube videos that I can share, or Twitters, tweets, X's, whatever they call them now. I still call them tweets. I'm not going to probably ever not call it tweets. Israel, Hamas, Palestine, Hamas, Israel. No, I don't really see. Nothing on Twitter is catching my eye. Check one more place, and then we'll try the Satan tab. Twitter's just, I used to get so much out of Twitter. It was more like Discord is now. It's just intelligent interaction and kind of in-depth, really active, dynamic conversation. And now it's just, my brain shuts down when I look at it. It's just nothing interesting for miles and miles and miles of feed. Oh, here's Lib.
Hey, what's up?
Well, hello.
How are you doing today?
You be my co-host today.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Let's see. Does that not let me try to remember what I said 5 minutes ago, Liner. Let's see. Yeah, no, that was my point. It's like what I was saying. Ideally, yes, if we're talking about stealing diapers. Ideally, if somebody does it, there's some minor law that somebody finds more of a hindrance than a help to society. My position this morning in the discussion was what to get the law changed. But then I said that I don't even follow every single, like I don't even go
Yeah.
through the process to get every single law changed either. I'll sometimes just overlook it.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the big point about like when at least when I was talking about how like I think there's a moral difference between things like murder and uh, uh, stealing diapers. I like the reason that I think is because a better example would probably be, or a better yeah, a better example would be like, all right, murdering someone and stealing bread because you're poor and starving, right? Is even better. Or stealing diapers because you're poor and you have a baby and you need diapers for babies. Um, I think that is a significantly less morally reprehensible action than murder, or even other kinds of theft. I do think like interpersonal theft is worse than stealing from like a a
A
big box
nameless,
store.
faceless corporation.
Yes, and actually, I would also say that I think stealing from a nameless, faceless corporation is a less bad thing than stealing from like a small mom and pop business. Um, like I think there's a sliding scale. Not that um, uh, it's like always morally okay to steal. What I'm saying is that morally we can distinguish between these things, even if there's like one is still bad. It's still bad that people are stealing diapers. Ideally, we would live in a society where people wouldn't have to steal diapers. That's the ideal, but we don't. But as long as we don't, we it's good to be able to distinguish between these things, the relative badness of these things.
Well, how, does it each individual just decide for himself and take the risk? Which I think is probably how it works now.
Well, yeah, I mean that's people like take risks on that kind of thing. What I'm talking about is like um, the moral condemnation that I would bring to somebody stealing diapers from Walmart for their kid is significantly less than I won't use murder. I'll just say stealing from mugging somebody. There we go. I think that mugging somebody is worse than stealing diapers from Walmart. Not
And
that
the
stealing,
law probably reflects that.
and it does. I think that's because we understand that some things are just worse than other things, and we understand we believe that they are morally distinct things, and the law reflects that. And it should note that is not every law is not like this. You know, not all laws are reflections of our morals or of society's morals, I guess rather. Notably, the whole thing about like cannabis legalization, right, in the United States, something like it's very popular, just broadly among people in America, despite it still not being legal, and
Yeah, that is weird. That's
that's a
something you
thing
can
where
do in one state. You can go to jail for in another state.
yeah, and I'm not a fan of cannabis legalization.
Oh,
I
really?
do no illegalization.
Oh,
I am a fan
oh, for
of
legalization.
yes, though I do still think it should be heavily regulated, similar to the alcohol industry and the tobacco industry.
Yeah,
Well, the tobacco industry is probably a bad example. It should be more regulated than the tobacco industry. I don't want the cannabis industry to turn into the tobacco industry.
yeah, and so far it is like what I've seen of it.
Mm, yeah, it's not great.
I really want Chris here because I think he's actually stolen diapers. I know he's done some shoplifting.
Um, and I mean, I don't. I mean, look, five-figure discounts are uh, people do them, um, even if it's yeah not good that they are doing it. It is bad
I
to
mean, I
steal
don't
even from
respect
Walmart.
it. If a friend of mine shoplifted, I would think differently about that person.
Yeah, context dependent, right? Like obviously,
Well, no,
if
because here's my thing. Because I used to work in social services, there are places to get bread and there are places to get diapers. Stealing is not the only option.
no, it's not the only option. However, there are mitigating circumstances that can force people into these um, situations where they have to make those kinds of decisions. And I will say that on the one hand, I don't like the decisions that they're making. However, simultaneously, I also don't like that we live in a society where people can be forced to make those decisions. I think that a better society would be one in which people don't have to make those decisions.
Well, we have that. Like we have bread lines and we have diaper like charities.
I mean, we have some. It's not nearly enough. Like I, I'm from Memphis, and we don't have enough. Like
Well, I mean, maybe not. It could probably be
it's
improved, but
it's an air.
like
It's
what
an
you're envisioning, we already have
well,
the
we already
groundwork
have
for.
yes, we already have the groundwork in place for a lot of these things, and a lot of this actually comes down to. I know I haven't discussed this, but I think this is maybe an important thing we can discuss is decommodification. Obviously, I think we both agree that there are some things that should not be commodified, right?
Like healthcare.
Like healthcare, like roads, um, like the fire department, right? That those are things that it we have examples of them being commodified, and they produced not favorable results for your average person.
Should that be decided at the local level or
Some should.
higher?
It depends on the thing. Now, and also like the scale, right? So like on there are a few things that I do think at a federal level we should be that should be decommodified. So like obviously roads, healthcare. I'm a huge proponent for much more decommodification of housing. And by that, what I mean is, I think we should take steps to decommodify housing. I don't think that like a full decommodification of all housing in America is like an attainable goal. However, I do think we should be doing a lot more, building more Section 8 housing, building better Section 8 housing, um, that sort of thing. It's all like infrastructure stuff, because like yeah, like there now and
Well,
here's an area we might disagree. I think that there should be decommodified versions of food. I think we should not.
like other than food banks,
I think
like
we
people
should
could just walk in the grocery store. Well, I remember the '80s. They had the government cheese and I
yes.
think powdered milk and
Yeah.
stuff that you could get
Yeah,
for
and
free.
I'm talking about that kind of stuff. However, what I want is for it to be not garbage shit, right? Like we're America, right? It's not like it's not like money is that much of a problem for us. We could create good quality free food for Americans. Um, Obviously, we would have to sacrifice things. However, I think there's still a lot of fat we can trim. Cough, cough, our military budget primarily.
Well, we've decommodified condoms. I don't know who pays for condoms anymore.
God, yeah, I mean that's good. I do think
We could
contraception.
decommodify, I don't know, things like rice, maybe, and like
Yeah, I
really,
mean mostly like staple foods, right? Like
yeah,
the kinds of foods that are like good calories, that are reasonably healthy or at least can be made healthy, that kind of thing. Um, uh, and like my thing is there are a lot of people in America who are food insecure. Okay, a lot. There's a lot of children who are food insecure in
like
America.
poor. That just means poor.
Yes, or it means that they live in like a food desert,
I
right?
live in a food desert.
Yeah.
Yes, you're
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I have to walk a mile to the grocery store.
Yeah.
It definitely disincentivizes healthy eating.
Yes. And yeah, and like Memphis is like one of those places where like there's especially in like East Memphis, which is where a lot of the poorer neighborhoods are. There just aren't grocery stores. There's corner stores, and
Yeah,
that's it.
that's what I
There's
use.
like for miles, and it's bad. And I think we should be doing more. And obviously, especially with food deserts, like the problem is much more complicated than just open up a Kroger over there. Like part of the reason why these big box stores uh, uh, don't exist in these places is because of high crime rates. However, the high crime rates are arguably exacerbated by the number of people living in poverty in the areas.
Well, that doesn't explain the theft and violence and stuff. Like the kind of crime that happens in these areas is not the stealing bread and diapers type.
Well, no.
It's more like the
So
mugging type.
yeah. But like that's what poverty breeds. Poverty breeds crime. Poverty breeds criminality. All kinds, not just like the normal.
I'm
like,
not sold.
that.
I know plenty of poor people that don't commit crime.
No.
I know wealthy people that can be violent.
I know. What I'm saying is that the correlation between poverty and criminality is very, very close.
Okay, I'll give you the correlation, but I'm not ready to say that's the cause.
Oh, sure. But like what I'm saying is, people are less likely to then commit things like violent crimes if they are.
I mean, thugs are gonna thug. It doesn't.
Oh yeah. No. You're not gonna like get rid of crime, but like you can. There are ways you can decrease crime, and honestly, like one of the big issues is like in America, the way a lot of American cities, quote unquote, deal with crime is over policing, which demonstrably does not actually deal with the core issues of crime. We catch more criminals, but we don't. Like,
well, if the core issues of crime is innate, if it's the criminal element in human nature.
It's not innate. It's that the socioeconomic conditions.
I think some of it could be innate.
Really?
Yeah, because I think you see it in all classes. You see.
Like in that, like yeah. I do think there is an element like there are some people who are just going to commit crimes, whether they're poor, whether they're rich, whatever. Now, poor people and rich people oftentimes commit different kinds of crimes, but you'd expect that they're different socioeconomic conditions. However, poor people are the ones who are more often incarcerated.
Because rich people can buy better lawyers and get themselves out.
There's a lot of things. Also, the war on drugs is a big problem with this.
Is that even still around? Like, do you think?
Well,
in the cities I've seen lately, does not look like there's much of a war on drugs.
No. What I mean is the effects of the war on drugs are like we have in America the highest incarcerated population.
Yeah, I'm in Louisiana right now. It's the highest incarceration rate maybe in the world.
Yeah, we should not. That is a problem. Okay, that's a serious problem with a lot of things in America right now. Is our incarceration rate. If we could stop having these cycles of poverty and crime, we could decrease the amount of incarceration.
But if they're criminal, if they can justify it, then I want them locked up. I don't want them. The
problem is you get so I'm gonna use a example, I guess a broad, vague example. Okay, so you have a young kid, right? Okay, who's born into a poor neighborhood. They could be black, they could be white. Poor people.
We all know they're black.
I mean, they can be, but like not always. Yes. I'm going to use Memphis just because I'm.
I mean, there, people say when you tell this story, I'm not talking about actuality, but people tell this.
Yes, and that's
story.
that's why I'm saying, because I do think this is also a problem with white people. That there are a lot of white people a lot of poor white people who get incarcerated and then get locked into this cycle, right? Because prison is not a good place. Okay, prison is like a shit place that crushes people underneath it, and it does not create. Prison creates people who are more likely to commit crimes again and then go back to prison. Actually, my dad actually was on a basically there was this like committee that Memphis did where they did this experiment where they basically after these a certain number of prisoners were released, basically this committee would work with them and basically like try and get them back on their feet, because a lot of these people were in really, really shit positions. They had been in prison for like 10, 15 years, some of them for felonies. And you get out of prison, you have a felony. What the fuck are you going to do? You're going to, if you get a job, it'll be a shit job, right? Like you have a felony. And that like, and then inevitably you're going to be poor, meaning that you're more likely to then commit more crimes and go back to prison, and then the cycle continues. And in the meantime, okay, these people aren't like being alone. A lot of these people have families, they have kids, and that is the fatherlessness issue, is mass incarceration. And yes, it does disproportionately affect Black communities. However, it does affect white communities a lot, especially rural white communities. Especially in Tennessee specifically. Tennessee has a big problem with meth. And like a lot of people will get incarcerated for that. And it's predominantly white people that have issues with meth, at least in Tennessee.
Well, what do we do with the meth dealers? I don't
Well,
want society.
So one of the big things, so there is evidence that drug decriminalization helps with this. Not drug legalization, not all drug legalization, but decriminalization. Basically, keep it illegal to say sell or distribute, but don't make like possession or use illegal, right? And then you also have things like free injection sites where people can go and safely do these drugs. And hang on. Can you let me finish before you?
I didn't say anything. Go ahead.
And in addition, literally in the same building that these people are being given safe drugs, they say, hey, there's this free rehab center. Because like, look, I know people who are addicted to like really fucking hard drugs. People don't like being addicted to meth. Okay,
Then
people
don't get addicted to it.
That's really easy to say.
I don't have sympathy for druggies.
It's not
I'm
about.
sorry. I don't want all of society's
It's
resources. I'd rather it go to the lady that needs diapers and bread than to junkies.
We can do both. We're fucking America, Jeff. We're number one. You think America sucks?
Don't try that with me.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's mostly joking. I mean, I am like, we are America. We can do this. This is not like a.
Well, if I had to prioritize, I would not prioritize. Do you think people that commit crimes, like even the stealing bread type, they know it's wrong and they're taking a risk, but leaving those types out, people know they're committing crimes. Like they're not. They don't need coddling and all these.
It's not so much about coddling. It's about solutions to these societal problems that actually fix them and don't exacerbate them. Because
Chris, did you ever steal diapers?
That's an opener.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Okay, welcome. That's what we're talking about. How to fix some of the society's problems at the lower end, I guess, or the incarceration rate.
It wasn't like a thing I did very often. Nothing I'm proud of, but yeah. Whenever I had no money for them, and Clover was a baby, and we literally had zero. I had no money at all, and I shoplifted diapers a couple times.
Did you have? Were there like organizations you could get diapers from?
No.
So Chris, you're in Texas, right?
This was in Nevada.
Really?
Oh, in Vegas?
Yeah, it was in Las Vegas. I mean, this is 16 years ago. She just turned 16. So, after whenever because I lost my job and Lindsay lost her job. We were unemployed. Had the baby. We had WIC. WIC, which gives you like formula.
They don't give diapers?
No, they don't give diapers though.
See, I would be something. I would be in favor of something.
Yeah, no, I mean,
giving
and for what it's worth,
diapers.
yeah, like I think we should be
Like,
funding.
why would you give formula and not diapers?
Yeah, the food stamps too. We had food stamps and WIC and they didn't, but that doesn't give you diapers. You get food stamps, so you can't even get hot food with food stamps. You can only
I
get
know
cold
the
food.
fried chicken law.
Yeah, it's
So yeah. I mean, I did what I had to do. At the time, and like I said, nothing I'm proud of. But I mean,
But you knew it was wrong. Like you were taking a risk. Like you rationalized it or
Taking a risk.
justified it to yourself somehow.
I mean, I knew it was wrong in the sense that you're not supposed to do this
Like
against the
illegal.
law.
Yeah.
I know it was wrong.
I have trouble morally condemning it though. Like
Yeah,
I can.
I don't feel bad about it. If that makes it, if that tells you anything, I don't feel bad about it. I did what I did for my family at the time, and it was and it wasn't like, and it's not like I wasn't taking in excess. I didn't take more than I needed.
Do you think diaper companies kind of write that into their bottom line because they know
Diaper
a
companies,
certain amount
no,
of
but
people
The
are
box
gonna
stores.
be
The box
the
stealing
grocery
it?
stores do. The
Yeah.
grocery stores do.
Oh,
They all
The
do.
grocery stores, like I said, I worked at more than one place that did not care about shrinkage, as they call it.
Yeah, the shrinkage. That was the word.
They made more. They would get more in their insurance policy. Actually paid out more than the like I said, the Books a Million. I worked there, and like they literally they had a zero stop policy for theft, not because they were afraid of getting sued or something like that, but because they made more money off the theft than they did off the books.
I mean, considering how expensive their books are, I kind of understand that.
they literally they could total up all of their shrinkage losses at the end of the year, and they would submit that to their insurance company, and the insurance company cut them a check, and generally speaking, they made more off of the insurance company than they did off of the actual if they had sold the book. So that's what the manager of the store told me. It wasn't that's not something I can concoct it. That's something the manager of the store told me to my face. So. That's
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just saying I don't think that's true for a lot of stores, but I think that was true for them anyway. Yeah. So,
there are certain rights or benefits that I enjoy in society, like freedom from violence, freedom from theft, that kind of thing. And people that violate that, for myself or other people, I don't have sympathy for. I want them to suffer consequences. And I'm not talking about like the diaper thing. I can kind of let that one go. But we're talking earlier about drug addicts and young offenders and incarceration rates and things like that. But if you're violating the rights of someone else that like if you're fucking society up for everybody else,
Yeah,
I don't want a lot of like mercy shown to you. I want you to have consequences because I want you to stop doing it.
Yes, but okay, if you want, is your goal to punish, is your ultimate goal punishment, or is your ultimate goal to prevent these things from occurring in society as much as possible?
Prevent.
Okay, in which case, our current system, our judicial system, our prison system, is not well equipped to prevent these high incarceration rates. In fact, our system is arguably.
But what if they're not high? You're using high seems like a judgment on your part. What if they're exactly the rate they should be for the amount of people committing crimes?
Well, but the problem is that are these all crimes that are I mean, okay, so I'm gonna use the term worthy of imprisonment. And I do not believe that any person deserves to be treated the way our prison system treats people.
I think you do if you put yourself there. If you put yourself in the situation to experience that environment by
Prisons
violating the
have
rights
incredibly
of others.
high rates of abuse. I do not think it is
Then
acceptable.
don't violate the rights of others. And
Then
prison
I
reform
don't
is,
believe
is
you,
another
Jeff.
topic. I don't
It's not
mind
another
if we
topic.
improve the prison
This
conditions,
topic.
but that does not justify leniency on the part of criminals just because the prison system.
It's not about it's not about leniency. It's about proportionality. So violent crimes or crimes, violent crimes, in particular, I do believe that we should have systems set up to remove these people from society temporarily, in order to perhaps rehabilitate. Because with violent crime, yeah, like that makes sense. I agree, especially if you're hurting other people.
Is
Don't
theft
want those
violent?
kinds of people. It can be. It absolutely can be, but it is not always. And also,
It is a violation.
Well, it's a violation, but it's not.
Person or property.
I think
Sure,
I think
but
that I think that the white collar crimes are like these.
Yeah, I'm all for prosecuting that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
I don't think
to like
they
the
should.
fullest extent. I think
get-
those guys should go to jail for just as
Yeah.
long, if not longer, than like the Now, I think that there's a big difference between like petty theft or like petty shoplifting type things that like the diaper thing and like these people that are running into like Walgreens and just like grabbing everything off the shelves and filling up
Yeah.
trash bags or whatever.
Yeah, there's a
You know,
difference.
and like and just like I mean like those kind of things, like those kind of people, yeah, I do think those people should be put in jail probably for at least for some amount of time. Maybe it is
I'm almost
it's unproportionate.
motivated to be. I'm almost motivated to be more lenient of them because they're not. For me, it's when you violate the rights of an individual human being. And
Right. Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Okay.
Like because they didn't hurt anybody. I see.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
Yeah, I like. Okay, so like, say like a mugger, right? So someone who
Yeah, a
who
mugger.
mugs someone. I agree. That kind of crime,
or someone that breaks into my house.
or someone who
Even
breaks
when I'm
into a
not
house.
here, it takes
Yeah,
my
no.
shit.
I agree. I do think that especially crimes against individuals are the kinds of things that we need to focus on. That I think when you're talking about the prison system, like, why the fuck are people going to prison for non-violent drug offenses? I knew a guy.
Like what? Just use?
No, just like having it.
Yeah, that's
I-
I'm open to that. Like,
Yeah, I knew a guy who
decriminalizing
went to
stuff
prison
like
for
that.
9 years for possession.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've known people.
Yeah.
I know a guy that had.
You're right. There are places where I could see some fat.
That's
being cut.
the primary issue that like I'm talking about is like non-violent offenses, especially if they're like mostly innocuous. I believe that most, at least from what I anecdotally have seen, most possession charges are bullshit. Like it sticks normal people, otherwise law-abiding citizens, into a system where they are set up to fail. And
Am I wrong in thinking that the trend is moving away from that?
it fluctuates. If you want to talk about like where we are today as to where we are in like say the 1980s, it has decreased, but also we've had other issues. The opioid crisis has had a drastic effect on incarceration rates. And that's not even like a war on drugs thing. That's like a pharmaceutical company thing.
Yeah. Is that possession or crimes committed under the influence of the opioids?
Usually it's possession, though crime committed under the opioids, depending on the crime, obviously. I think, yeah, like, I mean, if you're, whatever, on fentanyl and like you beat someone to death, yeah, go to jail. But like the reason you're going to jail isn't because you did fentanyl. The reason you're going to jail is because you harmed another person.
It's weird. It's weird the way that they can stack those offenses on you too. Like I got pulled over once, and like it's a long story, but like the cop, I almost went to jail for something really stupid. It was like accident. I got hit by another car, but it's like I'm not going to know the whole story. It's a long story, but like the cop basically At one point, I said one thing like I got confused about what he asked me, and I said the wrong thing. I said something that I had to correct myself on, and he put a charge on me for lying and another charge for not telling the truth.
What did you say?
What?
What did you say?
I just like what he said. I got confused and like so he was like this really like big like barrel chested like big man cop. He was he was like it wasn't even like it wasn't he was like this big like I don't know, he was like really tough and everything, and he was just trying to like I think he was just trying to like intimidate me with all the things he could like charge you with just because like I can't even remember what it was now. He asked me something really like stupid or small about I can't remember now. It's been so long. I mean, this has been like 17, 18 years ago. But yeah, I just remember I just remember that like they can put a charge on you for lying and one for not telling the truth, and I think that's just hilarious.
But you don't remember what you said or what he asked?
I don't remember now. No, man, it was like 18 years ago, and it all ended up like at the end of it, he ended up ripping it all up and everything because like the whole thing got straightened out. But he was showing me all the charges that he could have given me if he
Yeah, I
had
don't have a problem with that.
What's that?
I don't have a problem with that.
You don't have a problem with a charge for lying and one for
No, I don't have a problem with them showing you all the charges. That
Oh no, I don't have a problem with that either. No, that was cool of him actually.
Yeah.
I mean, he was actually being a nice guy in the end, but like he was just showing me all the things that you could charge you with, and I was just like flabbergasted by holy shit, like all the things that they can get you on nothing, like because there was no, I didn't.
Well, it has to stick, like
Yeah.
through the process.
But they throw all that stuff at you because like they know that most of it's gonna get thrown out. I know. It's just to make sure that something sticks. It's just ridiculous. I just think that they're just the like I said the fact that you can get charged for not lying and for not telling the truth, and those are two separate charges that can both add to a sentence if you were to actually go to jail for it. That's just insane to me. I mean, but I worked with cops before, and like that I remember I worked with this one guy. I worked with this psychopath guy. I was a mall security guard for a while. I worked in most of mall security at this place in Florida were ex-cops or people that wanted to be cops. I was like the only person that did not want to be a cop and had never been a cop before. And this one guy was an ex-cop, and he was an actual true blue psychopath. Okay, this guy was insane and he was evil, and he literally said he would say things to me like, he's like, man, what I miss about being a cop, I sure do miss violating people's civil rights. He said that. Like,
What?
That's a good word. Like, I was like,
Did he give examples?
What? Yeah,
he
talked about how he would he loved pulling people over without reason and then coming up with reasons afterwards.
Well, that's
he said
corruption.
it was like a game. It was a game with him. He said he'd pull people over because he said it does not matter how good of a driver, no matter how good of a citizen you are. He said it does not matter. They can find something.
Yeah, but not everyone's going to
take you to jail for if they want to, but definitely
that's just abuse of power.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that sort of actually bleeds into, I think we probably need some degree of police reform in this country.
Yeah, definitely.
I
better training.
Actually, that's
better training and better standards.
One of the big things, because I have a lot of friends who went through the Memphis Police Academy. I know a lot of Memphis police officers, and the training for a cop is like 8 weeks.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Like, we can do better. We can do better. We can do a lot better than that. And this is even, I'll blow this off, or I'll cut this off at the pass. I do not approve of, condone the rhetoric of defund the police. Okay, that's stupid. It's nonsense. That is an incorrect way to go about it. What we should be talking about is police reformation.
Yeah.
At the local level, like the departments that need it. But
yeah.
I also don't think it's as wide scale as people pretend?
Well, one of the problems is that they're just broadly the standards aren't high enough just in the United States, as a whole. Our police receive, on average, significantly less training than police in other countries, in other Western democracies. And I think, especially if we are expecting our police officers to deal with a lot of different situations, which we do.
Yeah, I would also like to see more mental health support.
I would love to see more. I would love to see also more social workers who are, or more.
They have that here. I was walking.
Really?
I was walking home the other day, and there was 2 cops that had stopped these 2 kids on bicycles. And when I got closer, they were dressed like cops. They both had the vest, the bulletproof vest.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the vests said social worker, not cop. He was dressed in gear just like a cop.
Yeah.
But he was.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And they were talking to these kids on the bike.
Good. That's what we need. We need people who are trained to deal with people appropriately, deal with non-criminals appropriately. The problem is we prep.
What percentage of the high incarceration rate that we were talking about do you think is constituted by these kind of minor crimes that we've all?
I can actually look up.
Okay, while you're doing that, hey Juniper, you're here, Juniper.
Yeah, I was taking a nap.
Yeah, we were all taking naps.
Oh.
Okay,
She's got a cookie. She's got a cookie.
Is that a pickle?
Cookie.
Oh, a cookie. Does it have MSG?
We haven't tried it on pickles yet.
No, these are.
It looked
These
green.
are baby cookies. They don't have MSG in them.
Pickle green. Yeah, when I was teaching middle school, I would ask all the kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And probably about a quarter of the class would raise their hand. They'd say cop. And it was all the kids that were like D's and F's. None of the high students wanted to be cops.
No, I mean I worked with a lot of ex-cops and people that wanted to be cops and stuff like that. Like, I mean, it's not an untrue cliche that like the guys that were they were big time jocks in high school and stuff that played football and still want to keep it going. It's not untrue that those guys go on to be cops a lot of times.
The Supremes made a ruling that you can have an IQ limitation on cops. Like police departments can have a maximum IQ. Like if I
I do actually. Yeah.
I could not apply to be a cop because they could legally discriminate me because of my IQ.
Yep,
And
it's again.
I didn't know that. That's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard.
Like about 10 years ago, this case made its way up to the Supreme Court. There was this one department that had IQ maximums that somebody sued, and the Supreme Court backed up the police department and said they can have that as a job requirement.
That's weird.
And I respect cops. I have a great deal of respect for cops. I appreciate the risk that they're under, and that they do things I know I couldn't do. So I'm very glad that they do have somebody that's willing to step into that role.
Me too. And for what it's worth, the cops here in Irving have been nothing but helpful to me over the years. Like in these last few years, like that I've been, like in the various mental health crises that our family has been through, and also with the girl that used to live here with us, Angie, and stuff like that. Like sometimes when she like pulled shit and everything like that, the cops that came here and have helped us out have been extremely kind and helpful. And like whenever Lindsay disappeared that time, like the cop even like he went out of his way to come back to the house because like my phone wasn't getting phone calls, and he came back to the house and came back just to tell me that they found her. So like I am very, very thankful for the cops around here. I mean, like they've been very. I have nothing. I mean, like there's going to be bad cops and good cops, you know.
I know. I know. I personally know plenty of good cops. I also know plenty of good ex-cops who left because they were frustrated at the system. They wanted to. They got into it because they wanted to help people, and the system isn't designed for that. It's designed to put people in jail.
I think there's there's tons of room for. And even a lot of cops will say that. Even a lot of cops will
Yeah,
say that
no, yeah.
there's lots of room for reform. There's lots of room for improvement in training, especially. I've heard this from lots of police officers before on various podcasts and stuff like that. When in the wake of George Floyd and other things like that, I heard tons of cops saying the exact same thing. I don't think it's a really. I don't even think it's that controversial a statement at this point. I think the fund the police thing was stupid. Nothing. Just the optics of it alone were bad.
The black people don't even want to defund it.
It was just
Well, yeah,
bad.
yeah. You don't want to defund the police. You just want to make sure that the money is being spent on the things that are going to help give police officers the tools to appropriately deal with situations. It's going to be on de-escalation training. I mean, hell, police academies, police departments love getting people from the U.S. military because the people in the U.S. military are given really, really good de-escalation training, really good rules of engagement training. That's actually one of the things that, weirdly, the U.S. military is kind of good at, and that's because of the shit we went through in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well, they need a de-escalated Yemen because they just got attacked. I have heard demilitarize the police, which I could see arguments for.
Yeah, I mean, and that more has to do with like police,
all the gear and everything.
Yeah, police department, and a lot of it is they get like old gear from like either the U.S. military or from foreign militaries sometimes. And I don't think they should have that much. Like, maybe you got one bulletproof car for your SWAT team, okay? But you don't need like.
Yeah, I want them to have the tools they need, but they don't need it for traffic stops.
Yes.
Or maybe they do. I don't know, but it seems like they should. Like, don't the police in the UK not even carry guns?
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think that's a necessarily achievable in total goal for policing in the United States, but I do think we can definitely de-emphasize the role that police can use force. I do think that police should be taught more how to avoid using force rather than taught how to use force. They should be taught how to use force.
It's so much of it comes down to situational judgment.
I mean, hell, there's that. I remember seeing there's a guy who he like tours and like gives like training for police academies, and under his system is called Killology. Okay. God, I'm actually gonna look this up because this guy is fucking nuts.
Does he have a video we could play?
Yeah, his name is David Grossman. Oh my god. Let me find a YouTube video of him. David Grossman. Killology.
David Grossman, that's great.
I love that name.
Probably Jewish.
Oh god, it's all like really long. Here we go. A video titled "Enjoy the Killing, Do Not Resist."
Oh, that sounds fun.
It's only 2 minutes. Here, let me stick this in the. And then I also found
my jeans are rubbing off on her skin too.
Joshua has a really good point. Oh, okay. You won't.
They should be taught to use less force. No, they should be taught to use
force. I have to watch ads.
Oh yeah, no, same. I fucking hate it. It's not that they should be taught to use. Sorry, let me rephrase. It's that they should be taught to appropriately use force, and that they should be taught more than to use force. They should be taught to de-escalate situations. Yeah, and this prisonpolicy.org thing as well. It has this whole pie. So if you see in like state prisons, violent crimes and property crimes, which I think we can agree are probably the most justifiable crimes, make up.
So the rate is not that out of proportion.
It's not good.
Yeah, but like the majority of it is violent and property, and I would still want all of those incarcerated.
Yeah, no.
We can take a little slice out of some of the pie.
I mean, that's not a little slice. That is all right. So public order and drug, that is 242,000.
Yeah, but I didn't agree to all public order. like taking all of it out, just the ones we talked about. So it would even be a fraction of that.
I mean, okay, what public order violation do you think would justify
Well,
sending
hey, I
someone?
want to watch this video first.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Are you gonna play it on the live?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Hell
Did
yeah.
it show up?
I haven't seen
Hang
it yet.
on, here it is.
Do we even work so?
Yeah, downstairs.
All right, enjoy the killing, y'all.
Now, for what it's worth, I don't know
am
if
convinced
any of this
from a
stuff is.
lifetime of study.
That's
If you
him.
fully prepare yourself, in most cases, killing is just not that big a deal. For a mature
has crazy
warrior
eyes.
who's prepared themselves, mind, body, and spirit for a lifetime, for a mature warrior who's killing somebody represents a clear and present danger to others, it's just not that big a deal. There's no wrong way to respond to killing. There's many ways people respond, and they're all the same. They're all okay. But if you could choose how you responded, I think you'd want to feel good about it, yeah? The satisfaction of hitting the target under the stress of combat, to do what you're trained to do, to stop a deadly force threat, to save lives, to save your own life. Some call it survive euphoria. It feels real good. Some people feel bad, they don't feel bad, yeah? Some people feel bad, they feel good about it, yeah? LAPD brought me out to do in-service day for the detective. LAPD detective in-service day is 600 people. One crusty old detective came up, she said, Colonel, you're the first one in 20 years to tell me it's okay to not feel bad about killing that guy, yeah? You know, a lot of people have been on the left end of the political spectrum, been driven crazy by the movie American Sniper, yeah? Y'all see the movie American Sniper? By the way, the whole sheepdog piece, remember Dad at the dinner table, the sheep, the wolf, and the sheepdog? That wasn't in the book. They got that straight from me. With my permission, they quoted whole sentences out of my stuff to put that in the front of the movie. It's pretty cool. But folks, a lot of people were
American Sniper wasn't
even a
deeply
good movie.
concerned that he didn't feel any remorse.
Yeah.
He felt good about killing those guys. There's got to be something wrong with him. He should have felt remorse. He should have felt anguish. What do you think? There's something wrong with him? No, nothing wrong with him. I've seen it hundreds and hundreds of times. For those who fully prepare themselves, it's just not that big a deal.
Yeah, I'm not a
Why
fan
do
of
I
that
feel
whole-
like Joshua Jones would agree with him?
I mean, he probably does. And also, that guy's like a fucking. He uses like Christian language, like "you're warriors of God" and like that kind of like crazy shit. It's
How does he get away with that? With separation of church and state?
He's a private contractor.
yeah.
Could I go do like Satanist talks to the cops?
I mean,
You certainly could.
but they I mean, I gotta be real with you, Jeff. I can't imagine most police academies in America would appreciate.
Well, you
I
have a
look.
very
I am
restricted
willing.
vision of what's
I'm
possible in the
willing
United
to be
States.
proven wrong.
I have reforms of my own.
I believe you. Hey, look. All right.
Death contains multitudes, you know.
Look. All right. I'm pro Satanism. All right. Let's go.
So, do you? What was the purpose of this guy? Like, some of it to me is falls into mental health support more than, and each individual cop's going to feel differently. So,
Yeah.
he was preparing them ahead of time on like conditioning how.
Well, okay.
to
So
feel when you shoot someone.
there absolutely is a way that you can help people to, I guess I don't want to say his phrase was like, oh, you're not bad if you don't feel remorse about killing people. The problem is that he's teaching police officers around the country. Police officers around the country have been gone through his philology course, and it does not seem to be that he is using the appropriate language to discuss a quite serious topic. which is that sometimes in the line of duty, a police officer has to kill somebody. That is a thing that happens. I fully admit that, and there are times where it is justified for them to do that. However, you don't want to fucking encourage them to like not feel bad about killing broadly, because like, how many times is a police officer going to shoot somebody who is unambiguously needs to get removed?
Yeah,
Right?
Josh, was that was my thinking about this video too. Like, I don't know
what.
he seemed more like a motivational speaker. It's probably some, like, the market's determining that his language is fine.
What?
The market has
Okay,
determined
the
that
market
he
isn't
would not
perfect.
be.
Okay, yeah, but the market also determines that like fucking poor people should starve to death. Okay, it has determined that in the past and in the present. So I'm not keen
I don't think
on.
it determines that they should. I think it
It
determines
determines that they
that
do.
So,
However, what I'm saying is I don't think they need to. That if we can
But
prevent people from dying, we should not. But that's a foundational moral. That's a fucking moral
we
axiom.
probably have different moral foundations.
I mean, I believe that we should maximize human suffering. Not maximize human suffering. We should maximize human well-being and minimize human suffering. That is
because you're probably more on the care harm axis. Jonathan hates moral foundations, but not everybody works off of the same moral foundations.
Well, I think we broadly.
I care less about suffering than I do about like protection and keep.
Wait, but that's a part of suffering. You want to prevent. But you want to. But like a part of promoting human well-being is preventing suffering.
Yeah, but it's how you prioritize them.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And I prioritize them differently. And to me, the cops that are going to feel bad about shooting someone, which is probably the normal reaction, are going to feel bad regardless of what this guy says. And the ones who don't, the sociopaths, are going to shoot with glee regardless of what this guy says too. So I don't know how much.
Yeah, but now there's now those people can feel now those people are justified within the system that exists. And I don't believe. How can you maximize?
But I think you already have those people. You have that range in the system already, and that I don't know how much this guy is actually affecting the ratio. Like, most cops will probably feel some kind of remorse or negative emotion for killing someone, and you have the few that won't, and the some that might even enjoy it.
And I think that we should be very careful about people who enjoy killing other people.
That's so first world to me. Like, I think list of things to worry about. That's not even.
When somebody has the power of a police officer, and
I don't care what's in their head. I care what they do.
Well,
I judge them by their actions, by the quality.
I agree.
If they're secretly feeling something when they're doing, that's not something I care about.
It's not about like their feeling. It's about the system justifies when they, to them, the act of them killing. And that's not good. Police officers.
But we already have laws about use of force that they evaluate each individual.
Yes,
and it either falls under the allow.
Well, so first off, are we all aware of qualified immunity? Not saying that is the only thing that is, protecting police officers, but you understand what qualified immunity is, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and how that it might be a problem if we start having more and more police officers abusing their power and then being protected.
Is that what you're worried about? This guy is going to increase the amount of police officers abusing their power?
Yes.
I mean, I worry about that in any industry. I know I allow for a certain proportion.
Yeah, but that's why I'm pro police reform.
And abuse their power.
Yeah, that's why I think we should be active about reforming these institutions.
But this just doesn't seem that much of a issue for me to worry about yet. unless like
I mean, I guess
the
that's fair.
spike of police abusing their power goes way up.
I was more talking about it because I think it's hilarious that like his philosophy is called killology, and police forces.
Yeah, he
utilize
seems more like a racket, do you think? Like a Tony Robbins type. That's
Yeah,
just
and he's
grifting
like a
these police
motivational speaker for
departments.
killing.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm already not a fan of motivational speakers, but you know, this one.
I mean, they're capitalists more than anything.
So yeah, I mean, I guess I should say I'm not a fan of a lot of motivational speakers. I don't think that motivational speaking is in and of itself a bad thing. However, the industry itself is not exactly full of people who are
Best actors, yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of charlatans out there, but I mean, at the same time, I guess if somebody's getting something out of it, though, I don't know. I mean, I don't get anything out of it, but like,
Yeah, I don't
somebody
care
does.
if people send their money to televangelists or psychics, or whatever. That's,
I mean, I don't. I mean,
they're free to do that. In a
they are
liberal
free to do
society.
that. However, I do think that we should socially not. I don't think there should be a law against whatever motivational speakers or whatever mystics or whatever that take people's money. However, I do think we should do our best to socially disincentivize people from taking advantage of other people.
Like, if not through laws, then how?
Like, socially, like being like,
I don't know
wow,
what that is. That seems illiberal. And before we get into that, I want to address this point from Silver Tongue.
Yeah.
It's, let me find the site. It's Jonathan Haidt's theory of moral foundation, and he explains how they're prioritized. His theory is that they're evolutionary. It's yourmorals.org, Y-O-U-R, morals.org. And you can take the test, and it kind of tells you how you're already naturally prioritized, and it's different for each individual. So that's what I was referring to.
okay,
I
yeah,
talked
and
about prioritizing.
I'm not saying that like I think that we all necessarily have the same moral axioms. However, I do think the idea we do all share the axiom broadly of promoting human well-being, minimizing human suffering. However, our definitions and the way we go about them obviously differ, but many differences as there are humans on Earth. And that's where we run into issues. We don't really run into issues as much in our axioms. Not to say that there aren't people who don't share those axioms, but broadly speaking, especially in the West, right? Like, because that's the idea of like that whole thing of like moral well-being. That language came from the Western philosophers. So yeah, it's obviously within our Western zeitgeist.
I don't. Yeah, I think you're making a lot of assumptions there about our
that people want
our common shared value of reducing suffering. I don't necessarily. I don't care that much about suffering. Life is
okay.
suffering. First, I'm a
Sorry.
Satanist. Second of all, there's Buddhists out there that would say that the condition of life is suffering.
Unnecessary suffering, right? So like,
I'm more concerned about violation of individual rights, and if you want to call that a form of suffering, that particular form, I am invested in minimizing.
I am also invested in minimizing that. Yes.
But just people that in general pain from life, like just that life throws at you, I don't. Nobody goes out of their way to minimize mine. I don't go out of my way to.
That's wrong.
I think societal apparatus to minimize that. I think that can be handled on an individual or communal level.
Okay, I mean, like, in a community is also the society in which you live. So, like, that's...
Yeah, but I don't think it needs to happen at the scale of the state. Like, I don't know that it's the state's role to minimize human suffering. I think individuals that feel called to do so can be responsible for
I think the obligations of the state is to primarily protect the rights of the citizens, and at least in America, they're
establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
Yes.
Which are
Okay.
individual
So
rights.
Promote well-being. Cool.
The general welfare, not necessarily the welfare of every individual, but the
general welfare.
The point you made earlier today about what did you say? Like when people are happier, society will be better or less. That I kind of agreed with. Like I think we would have a like the general welfare would be improved
Yes.
through people being more happy.
Yes. And by happy, I'm meaning like a really broad sense of like a lot of different things factor into happiness, right? So like, job stability, home stability.
Jack, you want to come up here because you asked us to define every single word we use. I pulled
Yes,
it out
Joshua,
of the preamble
right.
to the Constitution.
Yes,
So
Joshua, we do.
interpret it how you will.
Rights are invented.
Yes,
we did
we
invent
know,
them.
Andrew, and I agree. That's what I'm talking about it in the context of our current constitutional.
I agree with that. We made up our own rights. We decided what rights we wanted the state to give us.
Yes, and rights depend on the ability to enforce those rights, and yes, they can be removed through whatever process. Yes.
Yeah, and now for what it's worth, I do think there are some rights that we don't have in this country that I do think we should. But
Oh, you can interrupt. I want people to interrupt. That's why it's a panel. The more, the better.
Yeah.
So anyway, don't let that hold you back from joining. At least if that's the reason.
I love people interrupting. I interrupt people all the time, so I need the other people to interrupt me.
Okay, well, we'll do that another day. Because the other topic I wanted to talk on, NeuroJack. I don't know if you were on Flow State's panel last night, but they were. I want to talk about science and what science is, because there's a lot of truthers, flat earthers, conspiracy theorists that seem to have a misunderstanding of what science is. So I mentioned that I would talk about it today, and I'm just going to start with the dictionary definition: the observation, identification, description, experimental investigation, and theoretical explanation of phenomena. Wikipedia has a rigorous systematic endeavor that builds and organizes knowledge in the form of testable explanations and predictions about the world. And I think they're getting it confused with what some people call big science, which is the institutional apparatus that kind of organizes and communicates science to the public, but that's not science itself. So I think some of the conspiracy theories and flat earth theories, Science Inc., exactly what Jack is saying, come from this mistrust in authority and mistrust in experts, and they are conflating that with the mistrust in science itself. But science is just a method or technique. Anybody can use the scientific method. Science is replicable. Someone else can come and run the same experiment and
just verify
your results or validate them or refute them.
I was about to say that's an integral part of science, is like the peer review process. You know, if you just do an experiment,
even that they're saying is
a
form of expertise and authoritarianism. Like if enough peers get together, they can declare what scientific truth is, and that's not how science works. Scientific truth emerges from the scientific method. It doesn't get established through authority or consensus. Like there's many scientists that don't even agree on the same facts and theories.
Yeah.
It's a constant process of like truth seeking, truth making, sense making, whatever. It's always refining itself.
Although I think these days you could almost argue that some social science could maybe be.
I'm more talking about the hard sciences because I'm very skeptical about how scientific.
Well, there's been a replication process in social science.
Social science is like a misnomer because you don't really have replicability and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I agree. I do think there's value to be had in the work that social scientists do. However, it is a bit of a misnomer to call it science.
It's almost pseudoscience, but I mean, I don't want to call it that. There has been good that's been gained from it, but there is so much that the replication crisis in social sciences is so bad at this point that it's like you're almost like you're more if you were to like take a bet on every single like paper that comes out whether or not it's actually true or not, you'd be safer to bet against and not and instead of for.
Yeah, it's like betting on horses, all right? Like you doesn't matter what happens, you probably just have a 50-50 shot. But there
Probably
are
more like 60-40, but yeah.
yeah, you're not wrong. There are some things that are like, certain kinds of experiments that get done over and over and over. I know like UBI experiments get done the time and time again, and the difficulty is in
Universal basic income.
Yeah. And the difficulty is in like basically controlling for all of the factors. It's very difficult to do that. And because you obviously can't completely replicate the exact same scenario, but you just try to replicate as much of the same scenario as you can.
I've always kind of been a fan of it, and I was really sold once and for all during COVID when everybody got their COVID money, and that was kind of a real life.
Yeah, there was a recent experiment in, I think it was Denver, which is like they gave homeless people like $1,000 a month. Some group they gave like 1,000, another group they gave like 6,500, and then like 500 a month after that, and then other they gave just $50 a month. And it turns out that when you give people money, that like a super high percentage of them who like received $1,000 a month had housing. A lot of them had like jobs at the end of it, because especially if like you're fucking homeless, if someone gives you $1,000, you can usually at least get kind of off the streets.
You can invest in yourself and increase your opportunities. That's what I do with my COVID money. I said I want to use this money to invest in my chances for greater success after this. I wanted to use it constructively.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Yeah. There is the thought that, but like people will spend it on drugs or alcohol,
Right.
and it's
like the Futurama joke where like the guy they send out like a $50 but they send out like a $50 like check to everybody, and like the homeless guy gets it and is like, no more crack houses for me, and he goes to the crack mansion.
Yeah. Like you will have those people, but again, we can actually address those problems with more like drug rehabilitation, drug decriminalization, that sort of thing. And
well, how does drug decriminalization help addiction?
Because suddenly you can go get help without fear of being incarcerated.
Explain that to me.
Okay,
I think decriminalization,
because they have that now. Like I work Seattle. I mean, Washington State has their mental health and substance use system integrated. 80% of it is substance use. Only 20% of it is mental health, or 80% is substance use and/or mental health, which is co-occurring. So all of their resources are going to mostly people with substance use issues. So the stigma around getting help and the fear of incarceration is almost non-existent here. And there's still
in Seattle, sure,
like skyrocketing rates of substance abuse.
Yeah, and that's there's like a lot of reasons. Actually, there is some evidence to suggest that there is a lot of marijuana abuse among Gen Zers. That's a thing.
I guess it was I was a daily user for like 8 years, and I used it pretty heavily. And
yeah, I did too.
I probably could have used it more.
I think there's a marijuana.
But like even with that, even calling that abuse, like I recovered from it as soon as I quit. So
yeah, I mean that's what.
It's not like fentanyl abuse.
Yeah, I was about to say marijuana is one of those things that's like it's easier to get off of marijuana, to get unaddicted from marijuana.
Hard. The withdrawals suck.
Oh yeah,
like, it was miserable. That's one reason I want to do it again, because I don't want to have to go.
Actually, that's weird. Again. I never got like marijuana withdrawals. However, I get nicotine withdrawals. Bad.
I never got marijuana withdrawals. I
got irritable for like a weekend and and it was.
I
out of
got
my
I got
system.
some withdrawals. I got some very slight opioid withdrawal whenever I was when I had been on hydrocodone for a long time and lost access to it. But it wasn't that intense though.
Yeah.
It wasn't like someone trying to get off heroin or something.
Or meth, like.
A lot of
Meth-
getting help, Joshua,
wasn't that. They just usually just really
is the
tired.
motivation to get help.
Yeah.
It's not there. You really have to be ready. Like I tried to quit marijuana several times, and it didn't happen until I was ready to quit.
Yeah, but like, and then like, a lot of it is you just have to have really adequate facilities to aid in drug rehabilitation, and we have such a expansive drug problem in the United States that our current system is not adequate on the whole, right? I'm not talking about individuals. I'm sure like Seattle's problem is probably unique to Seattle and will probably require a unique solution for Seattle. I don't know what that fucking solution is, but
I don't either.
Yeah,
I don't think
mean,
it's
I
safe
think that
injection sites. and
what
decriminalization.
Liner says that there is a good point is that basically just that the stigmatization is probably more has more effect than the criminalization part of it, to be honest.
yeah, but a part of the stigmatization is the criminality.
Yeah, but it's not really criminalized much here.
I mean, I personally would be fine with them like decriminalizing and regulating everything like they do with weed, like do every drug like the same way they do with marijuana and stuff like that. But I mean, like they're never
Well,
going to do that.
Decriminalization doesn't mean that like it's now suddenly illegal to deal crack cocaine. What it means is that the people who get punished by the law are the dealers. The users don't get punished.
I don't know. I work in substance use. I don't know of any users that get punished by the law, and I don't know of anybody that has anxiety about incarceration as a barrier to getting substance use help. Like this is the first that I'm hearing that's the main issue. Joshua, I can't tell who you're talking about or even what you're talking about.
I can't tell if they're arguing amongst
Are
themselves
you
or
on
arguing with
drugs?
us. I really can't.
Your county sucks. That's your fault. Your problem to deal with.
Yeah.
I think people don't get help because I think part of addiction is you want to keep doing the drug.
Yeah.
That's a non-zero amount of people. Absolutely. I don't know how many people it is, but like, I mean, yeah.
Probably like 90 something,
I
I would say, just from working with them and my little bit of experience with marijuana.
I mean, I guess I don't have that much experience with it, Jack. But you said people in hardcore addiction don't care if they die. I mean, I'm not saying that there's not. There would say I would say it's a non-zero number of people like that too. But at the same time, I think there are those that the addiction, like drugs, like meth, and the fact that they do mess with your and heroin, they mess with your brain so much. Though it's not that they don't care if they die, as much as they genuinely don't believe they will, or they just don't think about it. Like the drug helps them not think about things like dying. That's what they're doing with it. They're using the drug to escape from the reality of the fact that that, like this is going to kill them, kind of thing. Like it keeps you blind to that kind of thing. I think that I don't know if it's really that they don't care if they die. It's that they don't even when you're in the head of the drug.
I don't think our theory of mind is competent for figuring out why addicts think the way they do, if they're even thinking.
Yeah, we just the idea is we just need to give them a lot of support and help in drug rehabilitation.
But that is so resource intensive and draining.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely is.
And I question the value of. And here in Seattle, they pour millions and millions into it, and they have very.
I mean, I don't know about
underwhelming success rates.
Yeah, but like again, the success rate could the lack of success rate could be because that just doesn't work. However, it could also be that what Seattle did wasn't an effective treatment.
I'm okay with putting them on
an
island somewhere and just letting them shoot up the rest of their life and stay away from the rest of us.
Well,
And I'm talking about like the heart, like fentanyl and the heart stuff. The
I mean,
stuff that degenerates you to the point where you can't function in
yeah,
civilized
no, I mean, I think,
society.
but no, I think we should give those people help. I don't think we should like
But
abandon them.
you can't give help where it's not what they have to collaborate in the process, and they are not in a position to do most of it, are not even willing to, even if they were.
I mean, believe me, I knew homeless.
Wait till I move. Wait till I leave, Joshua.
I knew homeless
Hold off the
people
dogs.
that
Please, Joshua, do it
they
now.
told me that they did not want homes. They did not want to go. They lived like that on purpose. And the same thing with drug addicts. Like yes,
the ones that won't help, the few that won't help, they do get like they have outreach teams that go out and interact with them and try to convince them to get help. And the few that approaches that are amenable to that approach, yes, it does work. But you're talking about a handful, a fingerful out of hundreds, thousands. I worked at a crisis center where if you got arrested, it was police or medical. So if you were in the ER or arrested for any reason, you could be brought to our place instead of jail. And it was a revolving door. Like they come, we get them patched up. It was like a Band-Aid. And they were out on the streets and back in the next week. It was just a revolving door over and over and over, the same people. They were making no progress whatsoever toward recovery.
I trust your experience. I haven't personally interacted with this on that kind of level, so I defer to experience.
And my background is mental health, not substance use, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I have substance use friends I could talk to and get there. In fact, they should come on one day. But I don't know what the approaches, like the most effective approaches for substance use are. But I do know that none of the approaches work if you can't elicit their cooperation, which you often can't. That's probably the biggest barrier.
Well, our current system, our system as it is, does not encourage cooperation. At least,
Well, I think the addiction itself doesn't encourage like the
well, yeah, but
drug
like
and the addiction.
our system where we put people in jail for it.
Well, I'm taking that out of the equation because where I am, that almost never happens.
It does happen in the United States. Like I'm sure, yeah, where you live specifically, where I guess where I live in Washington State now.
Oh, you're up here too?
Yeah, no, I've been up here for like
I thought you were in Portland.
God, no. Why would I go to Portland?
I don't know either.
I want to go to Portland.
Wait, is Portland too live free?
Everything I say about Seattle, it makes Portland makes Seattle look like a paradise. Portland is like even worse than everything
I've heard San Francisco's gotten worse than either one these days.
I think that's weird.
I think I don't know if San Francisco is worse than Portland right now, but yeah, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, LA, those
people
like
talking about San Francisco. They all I hear people mention at San Francisco is the fact that you have to step around human feces everywhere constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
walking around down there. That's ridiculous. Like, wow.
That's not working. What we're talking about, it's not working.
Yeah. What we are doing right now is not working. I do think we should be doing more things, more different things to attempt to address the problem, because what we're doing right now is not addressing the problem.
What could you do short of some sort of force?
I mean, I'm not a policymaker. Like I just can observe the situation and see that what we are doing is not having enough of a positive effect to solve these issues.
I mean, if this is an activity that a certain number of people are going to engage in, and it has the effects that it has, it seems like the best thing for everyone else is to isolate it or contain it somehow from the rest of society.
Well, then how do you
that's incarceration?
How do you then prevent it in the future? Like you can like move all of the drug addicts like to like an island somewhere, but what happens in 5 years when we just have more drug addicts?
I don't know
moving to the island.
I don't know how to prevent it. like drug education, but that only works on the people it works on. It's not going to
I mean,
hit everybody.
didn't
And-
Portugal's like decriminalization thing go pretty well with drugs until like they changed later on?
Yeah, it went well until they defunded it. Like they poured money into the system initially, and then they stopped pouring money into it, and the system collapsed.
And it
Shocking.
went
They
back to
fucking
like it
Pikachu
was.
faced. Yeah, they Pikachu faced when they're like,
And
"Oh,
Oregon just decriminalized all of their drugs.
yeah, maybe that'll
But I
maybe
don't know how it's working.
maybe that'll
That was
help."
like it was a couple years back. I haven't heard anything about it since then. But I don't know. I don't know what to what degree they really decriminalized though. I really have no idea. I never really heard. Despite that being kind of like a landmark type of thing, I never heard anything about it really in the news. No one really talked about it. I would have thought that was something that would have been touted by all like
The problem drugs seem to be meth, fentanyl,
Mhm.
the shoot 'em up drugs,
heroin. Yeah.
heroin. Yeah,
Though hasn't it been like heroin's been broadly replaced by fentanyl?
I guess so. Yeah.
I think it was-
I think
that's the one. That's like the visible
Yeah.
drug use you can see walking
Yeah.
around on the
Yeah.
streets.
Yeah, we're not even talking about the fucking opioid crisis. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
so that's
So even if we could tackle the fentanyl, because the opioid crisis has been around forever, and it's kind of a hidden addiction.
yeah.
And cocaine, like people were overdosing, but outside of that, that's also easy. Like, it's not a blight like
Like
the
fentanyl.
injectables are.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So I don't know
Yeah.
what the solution is, but it's not working.
Yeah. Whatever.
And I don't think locking them all up is the solution either.
Yeah, I agree there. And
But I do think containing them somehow, give them their own little space. And
I mean, God, as much as I'm gonna hate fucking suggesting this, but like, okay, maybe Jeff, you work in mental health, so maybe you have a better position on this. But so obviously, the previous mental health facilities in the United States have a history of like not working and basically just being fucked up in basically every level.
that's not my experience, but
I mean, I'm talking about like from like the 20th century. From like,
I've worked in one. I've been in a couple.
yeah, no, I'm not talking about. Like,
I've seen them be very beneficial to the people these were the extreme cases.
Yeah, no. Actually, that's the point that I'm getting at, is that like we don't have as many mental facilities as we used to have, and we should be
Because
increasing
community mental health. That's the model that replaced. Like they're free to live in the community, and they rely on family and the community and social programs and the goodwill of citizens to not really help them, but just maintain their existence.
Is there a possibility that we could open something like more like drug rehab facilities in the vein of mental health facilities?
They have they have that crisis diversion center that I talked about, but they also have like the recovery cafe type models and peer run organizations, like with day programs that a lot of them can go to during the day, and they have groups and access to peer counseling. So they have kind of those outpatient options that
are those effective? Like on like drug rehabilitation, as far as you're
they
aware?
seem to be they seem to be more effective than just leaving them in the condition they are now. But they're also like the people that go there are going there because they're intrinsically motivated for whatever reason to go there. It's not coercive. But one thing that they do get there is a community of supportive peers, people that are in or have been in their same situation that can help them and be a supportive influence on them. And that seems to make a difference for them. Not that they don't relapse at some point, but to have that option there seems better than to not have it.
Yeah, and I mean that's a step in the right direction, probably. I mean, I don't think that like any one thing is going to solve, the drug problems in the United States. But, well, okay, I guess might be a couple one things that could do it, but none of which that are good broadly.
I would probably say find the social services and the nonprofits that are currently have the highest rates of success and maybe see what they're doing.
Yeah, that's probably.
And the one I worked in, they were not, there was so much more they could have been doing. And I noticed all these ways that they were not helping the clients and could have been helping them better. And I tried to take it to the director and I got fired.
Was that due to funding, or was that?
It was due to incompetence and
Okay.
office politics and stupid bullshit.
There we go. I love to see it.
Not being client focused. But that was the program that a lot of other states come and study and model. And I was when I found that out, I was so disappointed because they could be modeling such a better program if they had let me offer my input. Because that was the one that was just sending patients right back on the street.
Yeah.
Processing them again the next week.
Yeah, we do have some pretty fucked up ways in which we deal with drug addicts here, and we should probably do a lot better. We can. We're America. America.
You got me there. I do believe in our potential.
Hey, look, I do too. That's why I'm so critical.
It's getting the wisdom and insight to the people that have the power to use it to make a difference. And that's the biggest challenge I've had working in that system. They only listen to certain people. They don't listen to me.
Yeah. And I think that's
what I'm trying to do with my own.
There you go.
Yeah, Liner and Jack, if y'all want to come up and argue about the hasty generalization fallacy.
Yeah, you guys got quite the dialogue going over here in the chat. This is the liveliest chat thing I've ever seen on the show.
Looks like it's over semantics.
But this is sophistry. God. I'm trying to remember the last time I even fucking heard the word sophistry. High school, maybe?
Oh, wow.
I
don't hear the word, but I experience it.
Oh, I mean, yeah, no, I experience. Yeah. all from me.
Oh no, actually no. You pretty good at dialectic as well.
I would hope so. I literally took formal logic and formal rhetoric in high school.
Well, there you go. Do you think it? I did too. And do you think it makes? Because I take that for granted. Like when I was taking logic, I didn't feel like I was learning anything new.
Yep.
I was just clarifying something that I'd been using my whole life.
Yep.
So I just take it for granted that people know how to think and follow an argument. But do you think formal logic makes that much of it? Like, is that what separates the ones who can from can't?
Maybe not. Okay, so probably not formal logic specifically. While I do think formal logic is like a good thing for people to learn, especially like kids. Yeah. I don't think that like that's necessarily the prime thing. I think the biggest thing is people need to be taught how to formulate rhetorical arguments. So like obviously logic is a part of that, but like there's a lot more to that. You know, it's also like, can you break down an argument? Can you like find out what a person is trying? Can you like break through the rhetoric and figure out what a person is saying?
Yeah, I consider that all part of logic, but you have a point. That could be its own separate skill.
Well, I mean that's how I learned it. So like I took I mean, technically I took 3 years of formal logic. I took logic 1 twice, but it's because I moved school. I took logic 1 when I was homeschooled, and then I moved to this other school, and they were like, "Oh, you need to take logic 1." I was like, "I already took it," and they're like, "No, you need to take it again."
That's not
whatever. But I took it again, and then I took logic 2, and then the rest of my high school career was taking rhetoric classes, which was basically taking partially, what we learned in those logic classes and using that plus like learning about logos, ethos, pathos, that sort of stuff, and then using those methods to both construct and deconstruct arguments. My like capstone piece, I had to give like a fucking 25-minute speech.
We did that as part of logic. We had to take like passages from literature. I think like we took the Gettysburg Address and we had to translate it into
Yep.
Boolean language and language of logical arguments.
Yep.
So we had to take rhetoric.
Yep.
And transfer it into logic, and then do the operations on it. So
Yep.
maybe, and I found that very easy. So maybe that's just something I do intuitively.
Well, you know, autism. Got a bit of the tism in
You
you.
think so? It feels so normal. It's like counting or knowing the alphabet. It just seems so fundamental that you don't even remember learning it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't want to attribute like fucking everything to like everything good to autism, but like I'm just saying from my experience, it's mostly people who are autistic that tend to, do understand formal logic. Maybe not like logic colloquially, but like formal logic. I think is a thing that I've noticed that some of my autistic friends kind of have a knack for. I wouldn't say they intrinsically know it. I would say they have a knack for it, right?
Yeah.
Like their experiences lend them to that sort of thinking more so. Which can be good, can be bad. Sometimes I get a little irritated at formal logic these days.
Oh, I found it a breath of fresh air in the environment that I'm in lately.
It can be,
I
guess.
Also, like Paul has a point about what is it like anti-intellectualism is based or something. There does come a point where it can get too nerdy.
Yes, it definitely can, and also
I don't think you can rely on logic alone. I don't think
no.
The soul, but it definitely helps to refine and clarify intuition and perception and
the big thing that it does is it helps people understand things in the world, like being able to understand when someone is using fallacious logic, especially like politicians who fucking use that all the time. Understanding that there aren't a lot of people who understand that, and I think that has something to do with where we are.
For me, it's just like things have to make sense, and I know right away when they don't. Like I know when it's like a wrong note on the piano. I just know the minute the sense stops making itself. Yeah. I can detect it instantly, and then I can follow back to where it did make sense and where it went off track.
Yeah, and a lot of that I think has to do with the formal logic training. Like, yeah. And I mean, now for what it's worth, like this was also a really Christian school. They like really, really, really pushed religion, and then they taught us logic, and then like again they Pikachu face when like half of my class comes back to school and like half of them are atheists. So it's
because logic of like Thomas Aquinas in the church was the repository of logic for
though modern like
a while.
We can definitely say that modern American Christianity has drifted a little bit away from the Thomas Aquinas'. I was going to say C.S. Lewis, but honestly, C.S. Lewis is.
Is that because of Protestantism and the Reformation? Because it did preserve it for us up to a point, but even Aquinas himself got.
What's your problem? What's your problem with C.S. Lewis exactly?
I think C.S. Lewis is broadly fine. There's one book that he wrote where he basically uses Pascal's wager and then defends it, but like completely insufficiently, and then pretends like he does like a victory lap in the book, despite not addressing the fundamental problems of Pascal's wager.
Okay.
What book is that?
Oh God, I'll have to find it. It's been so long since I've read C.S. Lewis, and it wasn't The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. C.S. Lewis books. Mere Christianity. That's the one.
I definitely don't feel that way with Mere Christianity, but yeah, that's a topic for another time. I'm gonna have to go actually.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've gotta go and
Yeah, that's right.
So anyway, but it's been a good show though, guys. We'll keep it going. I'll talk to you
Yeah,
guys.
take care of yourself. And
Yeah,
no
take
show tomorrow. I'll be traveling. So Wednesday will be at our normal time. And I
Right.
hope they're able to take care of you.
Goodbye, everybody in the chat.
Bye, guys.
Be well.
Bye. Bye, Juniper.
Yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of C.S. Lewis. I've just Tolkien's better, but
They're both okay.
yeah,
I read it when I was a teenager.
Tolkien is definitely the better writer.
I remember liking the Silmarillion, I think, more than you.
The Silmarillion was okay. God, this is gonna like kill all my nerd credit. I've only read the first Lord of the Rings book, and The Hobbit, and the Silmarillion, but I haven't read the other two books. I've seen
The
like,
Hobbit
all the
was
movies.
good, but
Yeah.
we used to watch that little cartoon
Yeah,
on TV in the 70s too,
God.
so that kind of helped me. That was like my pathway into the book.
the Hobbit's like one of those like I think like more timeless books than something like I think like the Silmarillion, which is
And I watched the Peter Jackson. My friend had like the extended version, and we watched the whole
yeah.
thing in a day, and I fell asleep 2 or 3 times. I just
Yeah.
could not stay with it.
The first Hobbit movie was fine. The second and the third one kind of declined in quality, but I don't think they deserved the amount of criticism they received, but I do not think that they were as good as the first Hobbit movie.
They were okay. They're not how I see the book.
Yeah, no.
How
Well, I
see the
mean,
story
part
work.
of the reason is they weren't trying to just recreate the book. 'Cause they included a lot of things from I'm pretty sure the Silmarillion and some of the other like I guess lore of Lord of the Rings in there, and that may have affected the quality of their writing, but who knows? I don't know. I haven't like actually done a full, really like deep dive analysis on the Hobbit movies. It's not really in my nerd wheelhouse. I'm more about analyzing Star Wars media and how it's garbage now.
I've only seen the first 3 when they came out at the theater.
Yeah,
I
the
really
original.
wasn't, but we had the action figures growing up. I remember playing.
Oh, I love the action figures. I loved those old action figures.
That's the extent of my Star Wars credit.
Yeah, it's fine. You can. It's skippable. It's not that good.
I barely
Anymore.
remember the movie, and I know there's a debate on which they revised it and re-edited which version is the best.
The original. Honestly, like the CGI shit that they put in the newer versions just kind of looks bad, and it's not. It doesn't add anything to the scene. They just like added busy stuff in the back and the foreground. That was.
So if we ever decide to rewatch it, just do the original.
Yes, absolutely. The problem is you'll have to like find it on like VHS or like a really old DVD.
Oh, there's not all of the Blu-ray copy or digital.
Well, no. So all of the copies now have the CGI stuff in it, that like newer CGI stuff in it.
That makes me want to watch it even more.
I mean, yeah, feel free to. Like, I mean, it's on.
No, I mean the old one.
Oh, the old one. Oh, yeah. It's so much better to watch the old ones. One of my friends back in Tennessee had the originals on VHS. And
do you have it?
I don't have it. I wish I did.
I bet Chris could find it. He has a knack.
He probably
for
could.
finding
Yeah.
rare movies. We could do a movie night on it.
Oh God, that'd be so much fun.
Star Wars. I still want to do Slacker and Waking Life too.
I don't know what those movies are. I don't know what those movies are. I'm bad at like knowing what movies. I don't watch movies hardly anymore. Like, I really should get back into watching movies. But
we have a movie channel in the server.
Yeah, no, I saw.
Chris uses it all the time. And then we do movies every Friday, and then we do a live stream after it.
Oh,
Discuss
after,
the movie.
okay.
I think this week we're doing Ordinary People with Mary Tyler Moore because she portrays a narcissist. So
Ooh,
we'll
that's
take a look at
interesting.
that.
That definitely is interesting. I was doing some reading up on narcissism, and I found some interesting things about how like the relationship between autism and narcissism, in that like
I call them autistopaths. What is that relationship? Because they're so aut means self, and narcissism is
it more has to,
pathological self-absorption.
yeah. So from what I was able to discover was that basically the connection is more about like autistic people and narcissistic people. That there is narcissists oftentimes to autistic people come across as autistic.
Oh my god.
In addition, the like narcissistic people have use autistic people as their like what's the term?
Their
Their
narcissistic
source.
supply.
Yeah, their narcissistic supply, because it's easier to manipulate for them autistic people. It's just, it's
You're scaring me.
I'm
No, because it's so true. Like all of my exes except one are like I'm a narcissist magnet, narcissist and sociopaths.
Oh god.
And I know there's something there. I know there's a reason for it, and I thought it was maybe childhood imprinting and all that, which it probably is part of it. But this other thing you're talking about is adding another layer of explanation to it.
Yeah, and I think it's relatively something that's it's like you can intuit it. It's I don't.
The narcissist can.
Yes.
Yes, I know for a fact they have a radar. They like sharks with blood. They have a radar for it.
Yes.
And I have no idea what it is on my end that I'm giving off as a beacon. And I probably couldn't do anything about it anyway.
Probably not. I mean, I've known plenty of people who they're not diagnosed narcissist, or however after having, learned more about it, I can like in retrospect be like, oh, that person was very narcissist leaning. They perhaps might get tested, though. Like that's getting a narcissist to get tested for narcissism is like,
because it's kind of a spectrum. I mean, we all have
it is. It's
a
all
degree of it, but it's when it becomes malignant.
Yes. Are they still having this argument in chat, or did it end?
Oh, let's see. I hope they're still having it.
The linear looks like
It's
left.
been 4 minutes. Y'all still there? I wish they'd come on panel
Yeah.
and argue. It looks like Joshua drifted off.
Is it bad that I? Is it bad that's relaxing to me?
Well, he's one of our resident trolls. We have the better trolls.
That's fair. I actually I almost regret saying that I appreciated Joshua more than Trace. Honestly, like, damn, bring back the conspiracy theorists, please.
Yeah, I like them both. I like Joshua a lot, even though he's a big old sociopath.
I'm used to dealing with them.
But charm is part of their charm.
That is true. I appreciate the server kind of being a place that it doesn't seem, well, I wouldn't say that it's not an echo chamber yet. I haven't spent enough time there, but it does seem like there is a wide swath of people, of kinds of people.
There definitely is.
And I think that's
because that's the center. We're the base center.
Oh yeah. Trace and Joshua are definitely center. They're definitely right in the center of the far right.
No, they're not.
Okay. Maybe
Josh is probably as right as it gets. He's from the Crucible side of it.
Oh gosh, yeah. That's fun.
Like Andrew Wilson adjacent. But
Yeah.
there's things I like about Andrew.
No, there's definitely things I like about Andrew Wilson. I think he's a little bit excessive of an asshole, but I am too, so I can't complain that much.
Can't. I have a lot of you to criticize.
I will criticize it, but I will admit that I am hypocritical in
I
criticizing.
scored a 12 in politeness. I'm a big 5 out of 100.
Is that in the your morals thing?
No, that's the Big 5 test that Jordan Peterson developed.
Oh, okay. I don't care for Jordan Peterson. It's not. I mean, I'm sure his psychology stuff is fine-ish. I think
the Big 5 is the latest. It's supposed to be the most accurate so far
All right.
accepted of personality theories. It'll probably get replaced by some other model.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really put too much stock. It's not that I don't care. I just don't put too much stock in like personality tests and stuff. The INTJ.
They really don't help me. Like I have my own sense of people's personality, and the test adding numbers and characteristics to it doesn't really.
It doesn't.
Do
Yeah, it's the same.
to enhance that.
It did the same thing. I used to like fucking hang around with like the political compass stuff, and like I searched really hard to find a political compass test that was like not garbage. And there aren't even the ones that are like hyper specific are still lacking in particular nuance, because like fucking I took it one time and it was like, oh yeah, I took the left political compass test, and it's like, oh, you're an orthodox Marxist, and I'm like, I am not. I'm really not.
I found this guy who updated the political compass. And this is a much better version of the political compass. It's a YouTube video.
Sure, fuck
Not
it.
an actual test for it. Andrew is great. Yeah, he is. He has peaks and valleys. Valleys of ignorance and peaks of great insight. I really enjoyed his debate against Vosh. I think he was just the medicine that Vosh needed.
I actually, as a Voshite, I agree.
Are you really?
I know you're gonna hate me.
I
know.
An hour and 56 minutes.
What?
My roommate's a Voshite too.
Oh God, I'm sorry. We're insufferable. I know.
Speaking of autism, I just don't see what y'all see in it.
I mean, he's entertaining, and also we do align politically. Like, I align pretty concisely with him.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
We all have.
We all have our burdens to bear.
I mean, I'm a huge Matt Walsh fan, and I don't agree with him on everything. But I find myself like I'll see something or read something, and I'll come to a conclusion or have a reaction to it, and I'll turn on Matt Walsh, and he's having the same exact reaction and drawing the same exact conclusion. So I don't mean to be aligned with him.
Yeah.
It's just naturally happening.
Yeah.
But then there are things where I find him like incredibly ignorant. Like I don't want to be.
I was about to say, there's some pretty ignorant things about Matt Walsh.
So he's a mix too. He's like Andrew. I think that's maybe a feature. It's definitely a feature of the left, but on the right too. Like,
I would actually
things that I
say,
like about the right, they're really good at, but then their shortcomings.
I like Andrew more than I like Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh, like, he reminds me too much of like Ben Shapiro or like Steven Crowder, in that like.
Oh, I like Steven Crowder.
I
just the little bit I've seen of him. I watched his Change My Mind. I've watched a few of those. I enjoyed those. And he fought with feminists one day, and I really liked it.
I have problems with his Change My Mind stuff, mostly because it's entertainment, but it's not like good politics, right? Like the Change My Mind stuff is like great entertainment, but it's not useful as understanding political ideology.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame the Steven Crowder for that. They're all entertainers as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and Crowder would call himself a comedian, though. Not sure what jokes he tells, but he does a lot of like, or he did. I don't think he has a show anymore. He used to do like a bunch of like racist caricatures and be like, "Ha ha, this is comedy, and it's like,
Oh.
is it?
I didn't know.
Is it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, he has. I mean, you can. It's
Looking him up now.
actually, yeah. No, he has like there's like an Asian one. He does tons of he loves doing those fucking where you like do the voice, and he would do like a really stereotypical, very racist kind of stuff. Yeah, it's racist caricatures rather. In case people are going to be like, oh, you can't just call Steven Crowder racist without proving it.
Makes racist joke about Asian reporter. Spews racist nonsense for 3 minutes. Okay, I'll check these out. And then Ben Shapiro, I know little about. He seems very autistic, but he seems he seems good faith and credible to me. And I watched this debate with the Groypers, and I like.
Oh, okay.
But I couldn't tell you a thing about his positions. I know he's pro-Israel, which I am too.
Yeah, that's.
But I don't know. I don't get the Ben Shapiro cringe that everybody seems to have about him.
Well, it's a lot of it's like he does like college debates, like where he like debates college kids, where like their mics are controlled by people who agree with him. So like he has all those people are not political commentators as much as they are propagandists. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'm trying to actually think of any like
Ben Shapiro too.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro's a propagandist.
He seems like he wants to be taken seriously. Like
he definitely does.
He takes himself seriously and expects others to take him as seriously as he takes himself. I watched his Dr. Phil appearance, I believe.
Yeah. There's also the funny thing where he said that vaginas being wet means that something is wrong with a woman, which is just funny. It's just funny.
Don't even know
it was in relation to WAP. There was like some.
Oh, the song.
Yeah, and he's like, did you know you should go see a doctor if your P word is wet, then my wife's a doctor and she says that that they're supposed to be dry, and it's like, God,
is that true?
I actually,
I will viewers that can verify that. I don't know. I can ask my mom.
I mean, I have slept with women, so I can tell you that it is indeed supposed to be wet.
Oh, I don't want to risk my stream, but doesn't it like at certain points moisten?
Yes, that's arousal. That's how it. Yeah. Okay.
This is probably all. This is.
It's broadly arousal. There are some people for whom arousal that they can be aroused without getting wet, but. That's more of a medical condition than that's a medical condition, because that's like the normal bodily function it's supposed to lubricate itself.
Okay, that's good to know, I guess.
Yeah, but apparently Ben Shapiro didn't know that. I'm ragging on him too much. I mean, he's. I don't want to say he's irrelevant, but he's a lot less relevant today than he used to be. Thank fucking God.
And he's also like, I'm from a different generation. He's probably more significant to.
Oh yeah, I mean my dad.
Like even Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, my dad fucking loves Ben Shapiro. He like sends me Ben Shapiro clips all the fucking time, and I kind of get sick of it because I have seen most of them. How about for men? Just kidding. Don't answer.
I mean, I know that. I can answer. It's not a mystery to me.
I also can tell you what broadly happens when males get aroused. Yeah, that's a. I think probably most people watching this stream have some experience with that. But yeah, no, there's not really a whole. I'm trying to think of like right-wing political commentators that I know of that I guess I don't think are fucking nut jobs.
P.F. Jung.
How right-wing is he though?
He's a centrist, a very enlightened one. Like some of his positions are,
Yeah,
like,
no, I
happen
know.
to
That's actually that's
overlap
why
with the
I'm
right. Some of them happen to
saying.
overlap with the left, but that's what
Yeah.
centrism. That's what you're going to find in centrism.
Yeah, and I
I
mean,
mean, mine are the same way.
yeah, I mean,
There are positions on the left that I agree with, like universal health
I-
care,
and
probably
yeah,
UBI.
uh,
Some of the reforms we talked about today, I would
Yeah.
definitely support.
um, not criminalizing being gay. Probably
Which
agree.
it is. It has
No, it isn't. But I mean, like, there.
forever.
Okay,
I
there
don't
are
think
people.
that gay.
There are
That's so
people on the right.
yesterday's news. Nobody cares about the gays anymore.
That's also fair.
It's
Most
the
people.
trends.
It's transes. Yeah, no, I know.
Because y'all keep pushing on the kids. Y'all keep pushing
Yeah,
them.
we do. We
It's the
keep
queer
trying to
theory.
degenerate the kids. Yeah, I know. I'm kind of.
I think, but for that, everything would have been fine. But they needed a new mission, new agenda after we got marriage.
I mean, I don't necessarily, from like a realpolitik, I guess, I don't necessarily disagree. I do think that like, so like for instance, when you say, when we're talking about like, oh, they needed something new, they were talking
Well,
about as Democrats.
no,
Right.
I'm talking specifically about because marriage was supposed to be integration. That was the pinnacle of integration, the holy grail of integration that we'd been fighting for. Instead of integrating, they became malcontents and they don't seem to want to integrate into society. So in the gay movement there were the gays and the queers, like Queer
Mhm.
Nation, and those were the
Yeah.
anti-assimilationists that did not think that we should push for gay marriage because they saw that as capitulating to the heteronormative supremacist patriarchy, whatever.
Yeah, no, I
And so
disagree with that.
that's the remnants of, well, they were a fringe movement when I was in it, and
Yeah.
it's the remnants of them, and they've grown now to become the dominant force of the movement.
Yeah. I mean, I can't, I guess.
But it could have
from that
at
experience.
marriage, it could have ended with everybody just happily integrating into society. But they found some reason why they were still.
I guess it depends on what you mean by integration, because, like, say for instance, I am I'm trans, I'm gay, I'm polyamorous. I'm kind of, there are many people who would describe me as very not integrated in society, but I feel like I'm reasonably integrated in society. I don't think there's, and even if that were,
There
even
are
if
some, I'm going
even
to
if
call them queers, that
Mhm.
want no part of society because they see it as inherently heterosexist, heteronormative, patriarchal, whatever. They want to live in their own separate society outside of the dominant society.
oh well, I mean, yeah,
Instead
that's
of
stupid.
becoming an addition to or an expansion of the
Yeah.
dominant society.
Yeah, no, the point is like mainstreaming, right? It's supposed to be like this thing that was unacceptable. We have
Yeah.
now made it's now been pulled into the mainstream, and like, yeah, so now like being like openly gay is a
Yes.
fine and normal thing. Getting married to a partner of the same sex is fine and approachable. And does Lib support the trans movement? Well, okay. I was about to flippantly just say, well, I am trans, but that's not actually an answer, and there are plenty of trans people who don't. Trans.
Is the movement like the activist wing of that, like with the specific ideological agenda? That would
Yeah,
just
I guess
be
that's the.
because there's probably not just one trans culture.
Yeah, there's definitely not, and I think, and actually, there's a really big like shift between things. So, for instance, people who like me did not sort of come out until much later in life, and trans people who began transitioning at like a younger age, usually when they're.
I call that, like, to me that is trans, and what you're describing is, oh, NeuroJack's coming on. What you're describing is a separate phenomenon than the ones that are they know when they're 3 or 4, and it's very obvious that there's
The big bad anti-Semite is here, and I don't mean me. It's Lib. How do you justify criticizing
Came out swinging.
a great Jew like Ben Shapiro?
He doesn't know that pussies are supposed to be wet. He's cringe.
Well, maybe he's gay, so you don't know. I mean,
Don't worry. If he's as a self-hating queer, if he's gay, I will also hate him.
But
So-
as a Jew, you can't hate him because that would be anti-Semitic. See what I mean?
Well, yeah, actually, it would be anti-Semitic to hate Ben Shapiro for being a Jew. That is.
But you
That
can
is-
hate him for being.
Well,
fake
so,
queer.
so
I mean, I can hate it.
yeah.
I can hate him for being
Wait
queer
a
because
second,
I'm
wait a
queer. You
second.
know.
Yesterday, I was making very, non-hating people because they're Jew kind of thing, but you were trying to say that I'm anti-Semitic because they're Jewish. It's like, wait a second. So how's this? You need to explain this double standard to me. I'm just a little confused. Hold on.
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
And I will begin by reiterating my correction, and I think reinforcing it, which is
No.
If
And
in the-
again, like I'm not offended. I just want to make that
No,
clear.
no,
I'm not offended.
I'm
trolling, but I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I'm
no.
actually more
I
curious.
understand. I want to make my position clear because the conversation. Again, I was irritated, which is not an excuse. However, that is the explanation for my, I think, flippant use of
don't
language,
worry.
which is
Don't worry about it.
I do not believe that you are. I guess you could be, but like you in our interactions, you have not shown to me that any like sort of any amount of conclusive evidence that you would be anti-Semitic. I don't think that is the case.
No,
However,
I know.
the rhetoric
Okay.
that you were using, I guess the maybe not the
Okay,
intent of
Hitler
the
was
question.
a vegan. So if you're a vegan, do I say, well, you're using anti-Semitic rhetoric about veganism? See what I mean? It's like that's kind of like the
I
level,
don't actually.
I feel like that's the level of like the argument.
No, I think so. So for me, what I was more trying to get across is that somebody outside the argument who has, I guess, my understanding of anti-Semitic rhetoric would probably, without context, see the conversation and probably come away with that you are anti-Semitic,
Okay,
which
perfect.
is
Yeah.
is a problem more so with your rhetoric than with your, I think, positions.
Sure. Okay. Well, let me break it down again. Like this is not personal whatsoever. I'm actually trying to help you because I think you actually make very interesting arguments. So here's what I would say. If you say that you can hate Ben Shapiro, what would you say the reason that you would hate him is right now?
So so for right now, I mean, he's a conservative propagandist, and I think hate might be a strong word to use for Ben Shapiro. I'll use it just for whatever the argument's sake. But
What makes you not a left-wing propagandist while you're answering this?
I mean, nothing. I am. I mean, I guess I'm not like as big of a figure as Ben Shapiro. I don't have the same reach, so I don't have the same responsibility.
So it's a subjective thing, not an objective reasoning. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I mean,
So
most
let me
things
ask you this:
subjective.
what is the difference between your subjective thing and somebody who says I'm an anti-Semite and I don't like somebody for my subjective reasons?
I mean, that would be them lying. If they are an anti-Semite, then they would hate Ben Shapiro for being a Jew. But if they are saying that it's not because he's a Jew, but for something else,
But here's the real question then. Do you
Sure.
think that people just broadly say, well, I don't like Jews because of their blood in their body, and like, don't you think that's a little bit of a straw man of their position?
Some do. Let's just be clear. Not the majority, but that
Sure.
is a part of their sort of rhetoric. However, the trick with this isn't just with like anti-Semites either. Like people of all kinds of political ideologies will be deceptive and lie to hide their power level.
I agree.
However,
I agree with
this
that
is
statement, by the way. I agree with
yes.
you on that point. Yeah.
However, it is true that in today's society, in America today, being openly anti-Semitic is not viewed as socially acceptable. So,
That's not what I've been seeing lately at all. I've been seeing entire rallies and protests across the globe against the Jews,
against the Jews,
and nothing's happening to them. There's
I'm
no consequences
I'm
whatsoever.
sorry. What do you mean against the Jews? Can you go into this more?
Yeah, I don't want to lose my stream, but they've been saying what they would like to see done with Jews and using Palestinian rhetoric and cries
I mean,
against the Jews.
if you want to ask me,
They've
like,
been ripping down posters of kidnapped Jews, that kind of stuff.
I mean, if
They
you want
had
to,
the Jewish kids in the library of that college that had to hide, and the crowd was banging on the door to get in.
oh yeah, no, we have seen a rise.
Like
in
anti-Semitism has been on the rise since
yeah,
October.
no, it has, it absolutely has.
And it's
Objectively, that's true.
totally socially acceptable.
I
And it's
do not
in
believe
the higher
I
levels of
disagree.
institutions.
It's at okay, all right. It's at the higher levels of the institutions. Please, what the news is anti-Semitic? Is that what you're?
Academia, whoever's putting on these protests.
Okay.
New York City, there was a protest in some
Uh-huh.
Jewish neighborhood in New York City, and the cops told the Jewish people to stay home that day, that they couldn't even protect them.
Okay, so are you aware of the number of Jews that have been protesting the ongoing genocide in Palestine?
But what does that have to do with a point that you said anti-Semitism is not socially acceptable? And I've said that is not what I've been seeing on my screen since October 7th. That
it is broadly
socially
not acceptable in the West. Now, well, okay, I guess I should actually
dispute that.
Actually, okay, you're right. In America, Europe has its own
and
problems.
the UK and
yeah, Europe has its problems. Like, argue. I mean, we can talk a lot about things, but like, we can at least understand that anti-Semitism has always been a problem in the United States. However, the U.S. hasn't had exactly as bad of a history with anti-Semitism as Europe.
Sure. Okay. Well, but here's the thing: is
but
isn't that like a broad, like, subjective category? It's like we put anti-Semitism as a racial hate in like a different category than all other forms of hate, or at least
all other forms.
We put it on a high.
I mean,
it
is
on a higher pedestal. Like if I'm a white dude, which I am, and I walk down the street and somebody says something at me, well, they say, well, white people are in general throughout history an oppressor. Therefore, it's not treated as the same category as someone who says, well, you're Jewish and they hate you because you're a Jew.
Well, that's stupid.
You know,
if that person is stupid.
Well, that's like the general milieu of the way this goes, right? I mean, obviously, I mean, it's not because white isn't even really a category. It's kind of a made-up category, and I would argue that anti-Semitism is a broad generalization, in my opinion. You know, that's my opinion, but
I mean, it can be a broad generalization, but like it doesn't. Okay, anti-Semitism is not put on a pedestal by, at least from what I understand, from people broadly on the left. Aside from, there are people obviously who do this, but like from my anecdotal experience, I do not see a lot of people saying that like whatever, like anti-Semitism is like the ultimate evil in the world and it's totally okay to just be really racist to white people. Okay, that is just not a thing that, as somebody who has participated in local action in the South, that's not a thing that I experienced at all. I didn't see it. I see it online sometimes. You get fucking, whatever, blue-haired feminists who said, Jeff, you're muted still.
You talking about anti-Semitism?
We are
in the South. I don't really know that to be a big thing in the South either.
It depends on like where you are. There is
I mean,
some
there's hardly
issue.
any Jewish people here where I
Well,
live.
yeah, but like that doesn't that doesn't mean that actually that helps the sort of anti-Semitism sentiment. You know, when you have people sort of like living apart, and you have like the conspiracy theories. I knew people in Memphis who were very very anti-Semitic. Not the broad majority of people, but there were people. Um, uh, but as to like whether or not anti-Semitism is this like unique evil, it's not. It's another kind of bigotry. It's another kind of racism. Just like you have anti-black racism, you have anti-white racism. Okay, like you have Islamophobia.
And there's different types of anti-Semitism too.
And yes, there are different types of anti-Semitism. You are absolutely, and different levels of anti-Semitism, because a lot of times anti-Semites will hide, they will hide their power level. They'll dog whistle in order to, bring more people without, coming out and being like, "Yay, we are anti-Semitic," yada yada yada. That kind of stuff. They don't want to come out and say it. They want to sort of slowly acclimate people towards it. That's just their like recruitment tools. You have some exceptions, obviously, like your people like Nick Fuentes, who will proudly talk about how much he's an anti-Semite, but he's the exception rather than the rule. What's the Jeff? Do you know the phrase, the whatever the quote was? It's like the anti-Semite knows what they say is ridiculous. Oh God, I can't. I'd have to look it up. It's a really good quote. Basically, like anti-Semites lie constantly. That's just historically. That just seems to be like a thing that they do a lot. Even like fucking back when you had like Nazi anti-Semites, they fucking lied all the fucking time about their anti-Semitism up until up until about 1939. Well, probably later, 1940s ish, early 1940s.
Because it wasn't socially acceptable, the same way people have to lie about their racism.
Partially. In Nazi Germany's case, it's also because their particular brand of anti-Semitism was way more extreme than even Europe's was at the time. Even like when we the video that NeuroJack had the Winston Churchill quote, which like just Winston Churchill just was like, yeah, I believe in the Jewish Bolshevist conspiracy theory, but like even with that being said, the vast majority of, well, not the vast majority, but Europe broadly wasn't as accepting of Nazi Germany's particularly radical take on the Jewish question. So they had to sort of couch their language in they wanted to do a genocide, but they had to couch their language in non-genocidal ways, at least initially, at least openly initially. Within their organization, obviously, they were a little bit more explicit, but publicly, this is one of the things. Like, that's part of the reason why, like, World War II wasn't really fought over the Holocaust. We didn't really learn about the Holocaust, at least how bad it really was, until we got into Germany.
It was fought over German imperialism.
Well, yeah, it was fought over German imperialism, not the Holocaust.
Well, and also Hitler, from my understanding, Hitler had made agreements where he thought he had permission by other powers to do some of what he was doing, at least, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure there were definitely states that turned a blind eye to what was, in Germany slowly becoming one of the biggest genocides.
You see, like the situation is rife for what you would refer to as conspiracy theory because, you know, if people are acting under agreements and then suddenly the agreement is broken for whatever reason,
Well,
then
the agreement was on genocide. Like the agreement was we'll turn a blind eye to
well,
you.
let's do a Google search of how many Europeans non-Jews were killed in the first World War One and World War Two. I bet it was more than 6 million people.
Wait, why? But that wasn't a genocide.
Well, from a certain perspective, it could be argued that it is.
I'm using the UN definition of genocide, and under the UN definition of genocide, neither World War One nor World War Two, at least into like the wars themselves, constituted a genocide.
Okay. Well, you could say that a lot of people of European ancestry died as a consequence of World War One and World War Two, though, right?
Yes, it was a World War One and World War Two were imperialist wars that were incredibly devastating on humanity.
Sure. And I'm just saying, like, you know, regardless of the quote unquote motivation of people to go to war, the reality is that the effect is the same. I think we can agree on that, right?
In the UN definition, the important bit of the definition of genocide is intent. That's actually the
right. Well,
intent is the.
I think that intent is sometimes very hard to measure.
No, it definitely is.
Yeah, I've been saying that.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. But
right.
now, thankfully, the Nazis kept very, very good records of basically everything. So we kind of,
sure, which is why I don't go around defending Nazis. Right?
Yeah, how does this come back around to Jack being anti-Semitic or not?
No.
Okay,
like I don't think he actually believes that. I know he was using rhetoric, and so was I. So he does. I know he doesn't actually believe that. Like I wasn't offended by that. So
yeah, I will agree that the rhetoric you were using absolutely is
could easily be
not. Yes. It's
trust me, I was fully aware of that. I was fully aware of that. So yeah, that's why I'm not offended. Like I do know that it's going to get misconstrued that way, and
I think I believe that you could have made the arguments without coming across. Like,
correct.
Gonna be real, that video was not exactly the best.
Yeah, of course.
Example if you wanted to use like I did like his whole like look on like how like the tribes of Judah dispersed, and like that was all like really interesting. Just like the then like conclusion of it was like I'm gonna quote Winston Churchill talking about the one part of the JQ, and then not comment on it, and then end the video, and then
that's a fair analysis, and I could say that might be a hint that I would reject it if I had noticed that, but I didn't really notice. But let me say this: like, part of the reason I employ rhetoric that can easily be misconstrued is I don't think it's an accident that every time you get into the topic of such things that I'm interested in on the conspiracy side, that you know, a label pops up to say, well, you're a this or you're a that, therefore we can't address the issues that you're approaching, right? That was part of the reason that I'm employing rhetoric.
It's less so that we can't, and more so I have in the past enough, and I'm honestly kind of just sick of the argument. Like,
oh, I am too. I mean,
it just like anti-Semitism is bad in basically all its forms.
I agree, and I think that more truthers should realize that. My opinion is truthers are being subverted to be anti-Semites because some of the stuff that they think are actual problems are problems, and that it's much easier to just say, well, you're untouchable now, so we're not going to address what you said. And I experienced that many times in different communities where people think I'm either an anti-Semite or communist, or they just throw labels.
Or fed.
What I'm saying is uncomfortable. Sorry, what did you say?
I said or a fed.
Or a fed.
Which is fed. Fine. I like when people do that, because to me it kind of exposes like that they're uncomfortable with the line of inquiry, right? You know.
Yeah, and I think what it for me, what it just kind of boils down to is that the words that we use matter. The way in which we discuss things matter to a very very high degree.
I don't think they matter. Like, oh Lord, what are you doing here? I don't think they matter to the degree. Like, they matter for fancy, uppity white people that like to police language, but most people can navigate. Like, most adults can navigate
Well,
conversation using a variety of language and rhetoric.
You know all about that, don't you, Toilet Bowl?
If I may rephrase, I think that especially when we are specifically discussing the JQ, I think it is important that we use precise language.
Okay, well, use the language you think is precise and want to use, but try to be, I guess, gracious about other people's right to use different language.
They have a right, however, and this was where I think the discussion between me and NeuroJack kind of went off the rails. Was I am just fucking sick of talking about the JQ in any really context. It's bad. It's bad. All forms of it is bad. It's stupid. Anti-Semitism is stupid, and I just don't see the value in giving good faith to like the video that Robert guy. I see little value, even if the first half of his video, first 3/4 of his video was fine, which I don't even necessarily think it was, because there was definitely a lot of weird phrasing and weird connections drawn. Even if that wasn't the case, that like the fact that he just ends his video with a popular, well-liked historical figure saying the JQ.
It sounds like the video was no doubt just propaganda.
Well,
Yeah.
And I didn't watch the video, so I was talking about
it was about
the people
anthropology.
that have these discussions.
It was about anthropology and history and occultism is what it was about. So, you know.
Was that the Bloodline video you said to watch? Oh.
So look, here's my question. Do you think that people's belief systems impact their decision making and their actions?
Yes.
Okay. So,
well, actually, okay, yeah, yes. I think
we must be the most exciting game in town right now for
Why?
Toilet Bowl to be gracing us.
Yeah,
there's absolutely nothing else for him to do.
I don't know who Toilet Bowl is.
He's someone who is Iranian yet thinks he's part of the Aryan race and that the Jays are everything.
I didn't know he thought he was part of the Aryan
Yet he
race.
also says that he would rather be a Jay than a.
I mean, it's all in his name.
Yeah. Well, anyways, you know, he thinks he's basically, you know, that Christianity is against.
He's here to harass NeuroJack, I think, over being anti-Semitic. He's just going to take every little piece of bone you throw at him.
Well, he thinks that Christianity is what?
He thinks that Christianity is basically the bulwark against the JQ, essentially, is what he thinks.
But please don't let him hijack the show. What were you going to say?
Hey, NeuroJack was talking.
Yeah, and if I'm misrepresenting you, Toilet, I do apologize.
Oh,
I know that you represent what I say many times, but I don't want to do the same thing to you because that's not very Christian of me. You know?
What were you saying before he started spewing? See?
Oh, sorry. So what I was saying was essentially is that so people's belief matters, right? And then you know, so my point is, if people believe something that's false and it makes them a anti-Semite, don't you think it would be nice to dispel the fact that they're operating on lies and assumptions that during them from being accurate?
If that were an effective method for convincing people against it, yes. However, I'm not necessarily fully confident in my abilities to fully correctly do that. Two, I feel like I've had enough conversations in my own personal life with people on the topic that I have done my civic duty broadly in that. And three, yes, I do think it's good when people think correct things and when they don't think incorrect things. But it is not necessarily it's not necessarily the duty of every single person to engage in every single conversation on every single topic. And in my case in particular, I can engage with the JQ, but probably not for long. And the way in which the conversation began was not ideal for that conversation. So
what I was
even
going to say too is the problem with the JQ is like no matter what information you give to people, people are still going to be set in their ways, and it's very rare that anyone's going to change their opinion.
Yeah, anti-Semitism is one of those things.
It's intractable.
Well, people aren't born anti-Semite though, so they have.
That's true.
They have to get those beliefs somewhere. Right?
Yeah, no, they do. It's just a lot of times when they get those views, they get them from
probably wherever they get all their other views.
Usually their parents. In my experience, the anti-Semites that I know in my personal life usually got those views from their parents, who are also anti-Semites.
That's the same with racism. That's how it happens in the South. Yeah. It's usually picked up at home.
Nowadays, in a lot of cases, it's the internet. I mean, a lot of that stuff is.
Yeah, I mean, look at the recent protests, how radicalized everybody got.
But when I was younger, back when Obama was president, it wasn't really that hard to find a lot of personalities, speaking a lot of like anti-Semitic viewpoints and conspiracies. Like there was websites like Subverted Nation. Mm-hmm. There was like Renegade Broadcasting and a lot of other things of that nature.
There was a lot of anti-Semitic propaganda around like the 2014 to 2016, a lot around on the internet. A lot of it was really a lot more subtle, but
most of what I saw wasn't all that subtle. It was pretty obvious. They would list names of people. They'd talk about like all the occupations they were involved in. They'd get all sorts of rabbit holes.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I'm talking more on the YouTube side of things.
No, I'm not talking about the YouTube side of things. I'm talking about like even way before I.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask. Okay, let me ask a question now. Do you think it's fair that some people feel that it's wrong that America has been quote unquote led by white people for a long period of time, and they think that diversity as a virtue is a good thing? Do you think that's good or bad?
Say that again.
Yeah, you're gonna.
You think that diversity as a virtue because white people have been imperialistic and whatever is bad? So my point is, do you think
not for that reason? I do think diversity is good, but not for that reason.
And a certain kind of diversity, not superficial.
Okay, so
yeah.
What you're saying is you want a representative government where you have people who look like the people that make up the of the country in charge.
No.
Okay, by what standard do you think that we should have people in charge of a country?
Democracy.
Well, they're elected, so it's whoever the people want to elect.
Yes.
I'm not going to impose.
I believe that democracy is it's the best system except all the other.
Do you believe that people? Do you believe that people have the ability to make decisions and are given enough information to make competent decisions regarding such decisions?
Regarding current American democracy?
In practice, no. In theory, that's what a democracy is based on.
Yes.
Okay. So my point is, overall, is let's say that a large number of Jewish people who are 1% of the population of the United States are in positions of power, and people say, I am uncomfortable with this amount of people who are not like me in charge of my system of government. Do you think that makes them anti-Semitic?
Yes.
Why?
If that's the reason they're uncomfortable, is that one characteristic?
So let's say that I go to Africa with a group of my friends. There's 10 white people in the country of Zimbabwe or whatever, right? And let's say that all 10 of my friends are in charge of that country, and black people say, well, these people don't look like me. They don't have the same values as me, yet they're in charge of my country. Does that make them anti-white, hateful people? Okay.
Now, if they were to say, these 10 people came over and colonized us, and are oppressing us, and we don't like that they're in charge because they're
And they
not
don't
even
have the ability to swap them out.
yeah. Like I mean,
But I was going to say something in rebuttal to NeuroJack. NeuroJack, there's like a lot of instances where any demographic could be a small percentage of the population, but then have like some of the highest positions in society just because, they either worked hard to get there or just happen to be in those positions, regardless of who they were born as. But I don't know. I don't see it as the reality in America that 1% rules everybody, because
Well, I didn't say that
there are like, there
yeah,
are
no,
like
he's
power. There's a lot of different people that are like, in charge of America.
I'm
And I
saying
think
that
that
they're
like,
overrepresented in what people refer to as "quote unquote" the halls of power. Is what
well, I know like a lot of people will bring up that
how
they're overrepresented, but they're not the ones that control the country. Like,
I think anti-Semitism and race and everything is a form of tribalism. It's at least tribalistic.
yes.
And one thing I found out recently is Louisiana has to redraw their congressional districts because there's not enough black representation from the state, so they have to redraw their districts to ensure that another black representative has a chance of being elected. And that blew my mind. That's even a
that's more of a thing. That's a more of a legacy issue from the Jim
Well,
Crow era.
but the thing is, like, now we have to define what do we mean by representative democratic republic. See what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Then you got to go and read millions of documents of laws to understand what the definition is. You get what I'm saying? It's like,
wait, what the definition of what is? It's also, it's definitely like you definitely don't need to read
he's
millions.
just trying to ask the definition of representative democracy in terms of like who it actually represents. Like, are people's votes counted?
A representative democracy represents.
Well, I know what you think it means. My point is, in reality, if you want to actually affect change, you got to go and get involved in the legal process. You have to go and
the political process. But that's what's so great about the democracy is we have that process.
My point is,
I do think we should improve that process. But
going back to the fact that people might be uncomfortable with people who aren't like them in charge of their political system.
That sucks. It sucks that they.
There's plenty of people that are not like me that are have decision-making power in the political.
Well, I
wouldn't say in charge of.
I think what NeuroJack is trying to.
That's just going to happen in a democracy.
Yeah, that's. I mean, like I'm upset that Bernie Sanders lost in 2016 and 2020. That doesn't mean that.
The good thing about democracy is that none of it's permanent.
I have a point, Toilet. You just don't get it. But if you keep listening, you'll get it. Don't worry. You'll get it. You should.
And I think maybe what Canuck is talking about is the donor class. And there could be, I'm starting to come around to a case being made for that, like the over-influence of money on politics. But I don't necessarily see that as a group controlling everything.
Yeah, it's not one single group controlling it. There's a bunch of wealthy interests. Yeah, so there's a bunch of wealthy interests that control different levers.
Aren't you listening to my argument? It would seem that I'm not defending those people. I'm questioning why are they in charge. But you see what I mean? Like now he comes out with he attacks me even though I'm actually taking his position. It's really funny. It's like I'm taking his position on the issue, and he says that I have no point and that I'm a self-hating white. See what? It's like I can't please anyone. I piss everybody off. I take their position, they turn against me. I go against their position, they hate me. It's like whatever I do, I'm hated.
I'm white and I hate myself. Does that mean I'm a self-hating white?
I don't even count myself as white. But anyways, there's a lot of questions that could be asked about democracy and just how America's run in general, like concerning like there's just too many questions to ask. Like, like, for example, when you look at like the American South where people are living in abject poverty and they vote red, you get people like in blue states, like the one I live in, where they'll look at big cities and they'll look, them Democrats don't know how to run things. And then you just look at the American South and it's like, oh yeah, like voting red really helps too. And then like in terms of property, you look at a place like, say, Valsetts, Oregon, for example, that was privately owned land, where once Boise Cascade sold the land, they tore all the houses down and forced everyone to move out. I mean, there's just so many there's just so many contradictions when it comes to like talking about the American system in general. It could be like an endless discussion, honestly.
I do think we should have an endless discussion on criticizing and improving our system. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not against that. I'm just saying it takes a long
part
time
of
to talk about this
democracy.
country.
It's
It
democracy.
looks like somebody has a crush on you, Jack.
Finally.
Maybe keep hiding behind an avatar. Make it somewhat hot.
No, it's funny. It's like I wish he would let me know what a Gnostic Christian is, because I think I could make a really good argument that the people.
What
that
are you
he's
expecting to
following
get out of him?
Literally,
A Gnostic is pretty much whatever they don't like at this point, because like if you're a Christian who says somewhat views that don't align with the cult, then apparently you're a Gnostic. I mean, there was like a YouTube channel that used to be on here that used to call people that all the time, called Edifying Others, but Edifying Others was not really part of like the Ortho Bro community.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, all these topics are related, because actually, like, what I'm asking is, why should Christians trust somebody just because they say, well, I'm a Christian, therefore trust my interpretation of the Bible? I don't think that's very Christian, because...
Well, that's my problem with organized religion in general. It's always, you always get these hucksters and fraudsters that will tell...
I've never heard Christians say that.
Trust me, man. And I mean, like, myself, I mean, I'm a firm believer, but I'm not going to trust all these personalities, especially online ones, or just ones offline, that just make all these lies and just like have these personal interpretations of what they think truth is.
Our Christian society is literally based on the Kabbalah, so which is not even really a Jewish text, in my opinion. So it's like,
it's Jewish mysticism with a Neoplatonic influence.
I wouldn't say it's based on the Kabbalah. I mean, it's based on a lot of different things. I'd say like America is based more on secular humanism and Enlightenment ideals.
Yeah.
Well, but all that stuff came out of the Kabbalah, though. That's my point. all that
Well,
stuff.
not necessarily. I mean, a lot of it just came from Enlightenment philosophy.
Well, but what came before that? It came from these Rosicrucians,
Renaissance humanism,
all these occultists that interpreted things a certain way. Then,
I mean, yeah, there was like
I think you really over exaggerate the influence of the.
Yeah.
Go read some history books about the people that invented modern Western civilization and what they believed in, and I don't think I'm over.
Who are the people?
He's probably going to say like Freemasons, the Illuminati, etc. And I mean, like, I used to believe that stuff too, but now I'm kind of more skeptical about that narrative.
Jack, next time, remind me when I get home. I have a passage out of a book that talks about some of these figures, and I'll read it on panel and we can discuss it. So it might help to tie some of these threads together.
So now Toilet Bowl is defending the Jays that he says that
why don't you care
Ignore
about
him.
it?
I will say
the trolls
that I loved the Illuminati Netflix TV show.
There's a TV show?
Yeah. Let's go. It's not Illuminati. It's not called Illuminati. It's called oh God, not Undercover. What the fuck? It's a like one of those like Family Guy-esque cartoons kind of deal.
It's an animated?
Yeah, it's animated. It's a comedy.
Do you know it, Jack?
It's very funny though. I enjoy it tremendously. I mean, he might not, because it's.
Will it help me to understand and or relate to?
No, but it'll be very funny. It'll be very.
Thomas Jefferson was an occultist who.
Everybody says things with no proof on here.
So, and he wrote the documents of the United States. So how am I wrong?
We use our intellect to wade through it all.
Are you a Freemason, Toilet Bowl? Is that why you're defending your people?
Bro, quit fucking.
What? What's wrong with that? I mean, so
feeding the troll. Like
you're right. See how he's actually good, because I'm even feeding him. So I need to stop. I'm so fascinated by how bored he is to even be here.
No, I like Toilet Bowl. He's funny. He's a funny guy.
Well, that's just the internet for you. It's just like that night that Jim Bob was in the chat for Machine Live Streams.
Oh, right.
He had other things he could be doing with his time, but he has to lurk in the chat. And then he
I
has to
get
make
caught
the
up. I was
community.
on streams for hours last night that I should not have been on. I got sucked in. It's
See,
so
the
easy
thing
to
with
do.
Jim Bob is he was just claiming that nobody had a point or an argument, but that's all these ortho bros say. They always like to appeal to philosophy because they have nothing else they can really appeal
They're not that
to.
good
And I
at it.
mean, I'm not saying like
What the fuck is, okay, what's an ortho bro? I'm not.
Well, there's the Orthodox
it's a
religion,
small.
but
It's okay. Yeah, it's a
yeah,
small
go ahead and
cult
explain it. The online
within the Orthodox Christian
Jay
community,
Dyer.
and most of them basically follow the Russian church outside of Russia.
Oh,
So that should just tell you how
yeah, no, that
demographically
There's a
yeah.
guy
they
named Jay
are
Dyer
in real
who
life.
has this
I mean, they have a big
following and
presence
this
online,
Discord server, and
but in real life,
he's
they're
kind
pretty
of
tiny.
culty. But it's not traditional orthodoxy. But
Yeah.
they pass themselves off as
It's kind of like
orthodox.
the trad caths, right? Like how there's
It isn't. They basically
Well, I mean,
complain
You
that the minor
spelled
ortho
sequitur wrong, Toilet Bowl.
Hey, Toilet Bowl, but aren't you one of the guys who says
Right.
that Western society is a problem because it's liberal and therefore we need to go back to Christianity? So like now you're defending the system that I'm critiquing. You just switch your position every other second. It's like, what the hell are you talking about?
He's alcoholic and traumatized. Why would you even argue with
Like
him or
you
take
say that
anything
you
he
don't like
says
Western
seriously?
society, but
He has as much credibility as Tommy.
no, I think he.
Yeah,
he
thank you
knows what he's
for
doing.
being a
He
number
knows what
for
he's
me at
doing.
least.
He's trying to obfuscate his
Tell your
goals.
friends.
Like, you know.
Well, speaking of toilet bowl, I'm going to go pee, so I will be back.
But
I'll continue
anyways,
chatting.
this community. Well, can I say something quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, anyways, with the ortho bro community, they've actually been known to dox people.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what I
especially
heard.
Jay Dyer's
That's
community.
what I
They've been
heard.
known to
Like
dox people.
former members that try to expose them. And
okay.
get out. That's why they call it a cult.
Interesting. It almost kind of sounds like the God, what are the tanky group? I cannot remember. Caleb Maupin. Caleb
I
Maupin's
think
little fucking cult.
Yeah, it's kind of similar in mindset to what Maupin does with his group.
Yeah. Though obviously
Except
slightly
Maupin
different because
has
Maupin's
doxed any of his former members.
he has done some really fucked up shit though.
So Toilet Bowl's
Oh,
argument is Christians don't care what political system they live under. Is that your argument? So it doesn't matter if we're communists. It doesn't matter if we're fascists. It doesn't matter if we're slaves or whatever. It's like, well, as long as I can be. I mean, that's very weird. I don't remember Jesus saying, well, that it doesn't matter what your political system is at all. I think he wasn't really directly making a statement on what it should be, but I don't think he said, don't have any involvement.
Yeah, I was going to say Jesus was really fucking political. Really political. Took out that whip and whipped out those.
You said you don't give a shit about your political system. So how am I strawmanning? Sophistry. That's what it is.
So, anyways, anyone want a tarot reading?
I think you should give one to Toilet Bowl.
I should. All right, here we go. Three card reading. I got it. I just got into this. It's very fun and calms my brain, even though I know it's just basically bullshit.
What's bullshit?
Tarot readings.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I used to read.
I'm gonna give one to Toilet Bowl.
Right now.
Sure. Hey, Toilet Bowl. I'm happy to talk to you, but just remember what Jesus said if you accost children. So just remember that, okay?
Hey, Toilet Bowl. What question you want answered?
No, I
You're not coming up here, so don't even worry about it. Flo is welcome, but you stay where you are. And Canuck is welcome. No. He needs rehab and intensive therapy.
Don't we all? We all do need therapy.
I do feel for Toilet Bowl. I feel for his plight. I feel for his personal history if it's accurate. But that doesn't excuse or justify his present actions. So anyway, enough about him.
Well,
What were y'all talking about?
I'm sending love your way, Toilet Bowl. Sending love your way, brother. Yeah, I don't know. I think we got lost in the
because y'all let the trolls hijack. Which
Hey, look,
I'm also a little guilty of. So gaslight treatment.
Gaslight
That for
gatekeep girl
that
boss.
loving Rain Man.
Gold hit 2K per ounce US. It's a big deal in terms of market moves.
I don't know what that means.
He's so far away. What?
He's being a doomer.
I mean, I empathize, but you know, we're not gonna like die yet. We're fine.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Like our empire is on the decline, but like, you know, we're like it's like in we're like
what's the,
43 AD.
who's the nearest competition? China? Like
China.
Even if it's on the decline, it's still
110% China.
No, we're all interdependent at this point.
No, we are, but
you know,
yeah, there might be a case for that.
But China,
I'm not sure
China
where that leaves us or what to do with that. I did notice that like people seem more bold now. They don't seem as scared of America as they used to be. They're shooting our shit like Yemen.
A
just
funny
shot.
point I just came up with. What do Ortho Bros and Caleb Maupin have in common?
Arthur Bros and who?
Caleb Maupin.
Who?
What do
Caleb
Ortho Bros and
Maupin.
Caleb
He's
Maupin
a-
have in common?
Caleb Maupin?
Caleb Maupin. He's a tanky cultist.
It's a joke question, by the way.
Oh, right.
Let's see. They both like being spanked. I don't know if Ortho Bros do, but I do know Caleb
they
Maupin
both-
does.
The answer is they both support Russia.
Ooh, cringe. Imagine supporting Russia.
hey,
There's
but
actually,
Russia's
Are you talking about?
there's actually a
superficial
Russian YouTuber. Yeah.
or
There's
real
actually a Russian
diversity? I think
YouTuber
we
who
need
makes some
diversity.
interesting videos. And what I've seen from what Russia's really like is there's parts of the town where they have these tiles that are constantly breaking and they're constantly just doing construction just to put them in. And then you have parts of outside of Russia, you have cities where you can't even wear sandals or you're going to step on a syringe and get AIDS. Like it's not
They
as
have those here.
Oh,
nice
yeah.
as
They
people
never-
think.
They have AIDS in Russia.
They never
Yeah, it's
like
really bad.
recovered from the 90s. Yeah, they never really recovered from the 90s.
Do they have a lot of drugs and stuff in Russia right now?
They have a lot of things in Russia. None of them really good.
Well, all I know is I've met Russian people
Yeah, Russian people are cool.
who are from Russia, and like I think that the average American would not last very long in Russia. Like
No.
you want to talk about like
Sure.
hardcore fucking place to go, like
Yeah.
China and Russia
I
are
wish
hardcore.
I wish they didn't have to. I wish they could live easier.
Oh, that's
happier,
that drug.
more fulfilling lives.
Crocodile.
It'd be
I've seen
nice.
it. It's the one that like turns your skin black.
Uh-oh. Canuck Sam is a Ruski. He's a supporter of Putin. I'm just kidding. But
Russia doesn't get the credit. Okay, let's say Russians don't get the credit they deserved. Russia gets as little credit as it deserves.
Some Ukrainians. I never really talked to Ukrainians before. I met some Ukrainians who are pretty successful people. I would say like a month and a half ago. And it's the first time I ever got to talk to somebody actually from Ukraine.
Yeah.
And they explained to me that the way they think that Russia does business leads them to believe, and I'm paraphrasing what they said because their English wasn't the best, but basically what they were saying is divide and conquer, divide and conquer, divide and conquer is basically their whole political strategy. Like, they don't care about actually building up anyone else. They care about tearing everyone else down, and they'll just say, well, we don't have to rise up much. We just kind of war of attrition. We just make the whole and South Africa, they said, is a good example of that. Basically, like, if you look at the political party, the communists over there, and I know that's don't take it personal, Lib, but it's like all those black communists over there are basically like going anti-white, and it's not.
I mean, are they communists though? Like,
Well,
are they communists?
I know that's why I'm making that caveat for you, but but
I mean, you should make that caveat, period, not just for me. Don't do it on my behalf. Just do that to be correct.
No. I know. I'm half joking, but my point is overall is like basically their political strategy is get the countries that they don't want to be a problem to tear each other apart, because then they'll be too busy to do anything that they're to get in their way, essentially, right?
Yeah, I mean that's been sort of like the Russian, at least propaganda.
Yeah, exactly.
Goals for
they're
a long
primarily a propagandist outfit. Essentially, they don't really. KGB is much more
as is evident in Ukraine. It turns out they fucking suck at running wars.
Well, but this is where I get very conspiratorial, and I say, well, it seems to me that China, Russia, and the United States must have some sort of agreement. It might be kind of like what I mentioned about Hitler, which is why I did mention, Mean Mr. Mustache before, because in the same way that they had all these secret agreements behind the scenes, I would imagine there must be some sort of secret agreements behind the scenes of these three countries to say, well, we're going to have limited proxy wars for whatever reason, but we're not going to, nuke each other or whatever, right?
It's not an agreement as it is the state of the conflicts. It's not that, like, they do all agree, yes, that is the state of the conflicts, but that's not, they don't have like an agreement. They just, that's how we fight our wars now, is via proxy with Russia.
Yes. And I think that's kind of,
it's bad. We should not be using the Ukraine conflict, the Ukraine war, as a proxy war. We should be assisting a country that is under attack. Or rather, NATO. I do think the United States as an individual country should probably pare down its own support, and we should probably, a lot of that more responsibility should shift to Europe.
Why is liberty making so much sense today?
Because he's a communist. I'm just joking.
I've
agreed with him way more than I seems like I should.
I'm saying things I think are correct. I'm sorry.
Well,
like it more has to do with, I think, like the way in which we are supporting Ukraine, because the way in which we are supporting Ukraine right now is not in a way that is actually going to help Ukraine win the war, right? We're doing it in that way that it keeps Russia in a forever war. NATO has been nothing. Oh, okay. So Canuck is a cuck. Awesome.
Is Russia a paper tiger, or should we waste as much time and energy as we do being worried about them?
I mean, the
I mean, they have nukes, but North Korea.
They might have nukes still.
Well, I think that it's impossible to know for sure.
Yeah, we should treat them as though they still have nukes. That is true.
And Putin as though he's still dangerous.
Yes. Now, I do think that the Russian military has been demonstrated to be a paper tiger. They just apparently. Well, Ukraine initially was just to be able to fucking fold them over the table.
Defensively, they're not. I think maybe perhaps.
No, defensively, yeah, they're fine, but that's their whole thing is about protecting Russia.
So here's my kind of question for you, Lib, and everyone on the panel. Why, if we're all agreeing that divide and conquer is a bad thing, why do you think that the United States is allowing people on both the right and the left to essentially divide and conquer their own population? Like, shouldn't we be trying to build a more cohesive group of people.
Because
And,
because the United States doesn't really care about what is, I guess, like better
We-
broadly. What the United States cares about is the interests of the United States, and honestly, Americans being so politically divided right now benefits the donor class a lot right now, and so yeah, that's why they'll.
so are you saying that we need a French Revolution style,
I don't
anti-donor?
think that would work.
Okay, so
It wouldn't work.
how would
we
we?
are America. Us.
How could
right
we?
here.
How
Well,
could
yes, but like I'm saying, the American government,
And
like
I don't think anyone's forcing us to be divided so much as that's
Yeah.
what
no
naturally
one's
happening.
forcing.
But like
That
maybe
is,
social media is exacerbating it.
yeah, there are a number of factors that are
But
exacerbating
we're
it.
doing that all on our own.
Absolutely.
well,
Well, not
well,
we are having help, but like it was already happening.
so
It's
I
just
guess here's the next stage question then. Do you think that it's going to be easier if the United States collapses and then rebuilds for
It's
your
not
goal,
going to collapse.
or
It's
do
not
you
gonna,
think,
yeah.
or
Well,
do you think that it's, or do you think that the way that we can address the issue to get people to have a more cohesive and
Yeah, we still have our democratic process. I haven't given
yeah,
up on it.
it's not going to yeah, and the United States isn't going to collapse in like the same way that like the Western Roman Empire collapsed. Like that's just not in the
And even that,
it's not in the cards of
hundreds
the
of
material
years.
conditions. Arguably, there just isn't any scenario going forward
Well,
where the United States crumbles like
you
the
might be
Western Roman
correct.
Empire.
I think that the way that you might be correct is essentially that the United States seems to have the whole world held hostage, saying like essentially, if we go down, you're going down. You get what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what I.
I'm not so sure that it's that um, explicitly bad necessarily. Like I don't think if we were to like, I don't think that the United States would nuke the world. I do not think we would. I guess probably some might. There are definitely people who probably would want to, but they don't currently have power, and hopefully they won't.
But here's the thing about the United States, and this is what I'm trying to. This is a part of a larger point, and I know that I'm. To Toilet Bowl's point, it does seem that I don't have a point. Although I do, I try not to make it super clear, but because I am genuinely curious what other people think. But it seems to me that United States is the example of both resource management and of human capital management. Like no one else on earth really knows how to get people to do something.
Well,
Effectively.
it's not about know-how. It's about we have the power.
Well, it's because of the people here to some degree, and it's
no, it is, yeah, but it's not
partly.
it's not like a know-how thing. Like America has fucking 11 aircraft carriers, fucking.
Well, but my point is like, if social media is a weapon, which I would definitely argue that it is,
Contextually, yeah, sure. Capacity, there we go.
Yeah, it has the capacity to be a weapon. Do you think that the United States is immune from that weaponry, or do you think that?
No, in fact, it's not. It's so far in the other direction. We're not immune to it. It does affect us significantly, a lot. Social media, propaganda,
And
yeah.
it can be weaponized, but
Yeah.
even absent that, it's we are using it to affect ourselves.
Yeah.
In
Like
negative ways, even without like China weaponizing TikTok.
Yeah. Like
we're still doing, even if China had no influence on TikTok whatsoever, we're still using TikTok.
Yeah.
To influence.
Well,
ourselves.
but that's my point. See, this is what I'm getting to is like, why would the United States release weaponry into its own place if they were really cared about maintaining
just
the
because it
hegemony
can be
of the West?
weaponized doesn't mean it was released as weapon.
Yeah.
Well, but
that's
my point
quite
is
an assumption.
Wasn't the app
is
initially owned by like a Singaporean company?
Well, but my point is either way, it is causing divide and conquer within its borders, right?
Well,
And
What
also,
are you going to
well,
do?
no, it's
we're not going
no.
back to before social media.
well, and also we have a complete, more or less an open border where people can just come in. So obviously they're not really worried about
You talking about actual borders or digitally?
either way. Yeah, but
Wait,
mostly
I mean,
what do
real
you
border.
mean?
borders
What do you
out
mean
here,
open
pretty
border?
much.
Meaning basically, if you
Are you-
show up and you're not on
That
a
we don't enforce our
watch
immigration
list,
laws.
yeah, we don't enforce immigration
Based.
based. Who said that?
I mean,
Oh, no, but I'm
not
saying,
enforcing immigration laws. Based.
no. But what I'm saying is like,
I'm joking, of course.
no, I know, but
partially.
but like,
Kind
to
of.
what end do you think that these things are being done? Right? Like, it's obviously on
What, like
purpose. Right?
immigration? Yeah, the capitalist class needs more laborers, so they want more people to come in here, especially considering that in the United States we don't have a sufficient native birth replacement rate. So we supplement, like every
Which
industrialized
is
country,
what,
we supplement that with immigration.
but it's a result of industrialization.
Yes, it's a result of industrialization.
So
Absolutely.
isn't it a self-inflicting?
Well,
It's-
we're not going back. So what's the alternative?
Yeah, like what you're saying is, hey, there's a problem, and what I'm saying is, I mean, it's a okay. So first off, like population decrease is not a problem that we can come back from, because to do so would require be
Sure it is. Sure there is.
okay. Sorry, without significant. Okay, so first off, on the practicality, no, we can't. As
Sure.
to whether or not we literally could, yes,
Yep,
we literally could.
We would encourage. We would have to encourage women to not be as educated and have more children, which they could do if they wanted. And I'm not saying that we should. I'm just saying that is a possibility, right?
Alternatively, what Western democracies have found is that if you let people from other places come in, especially if they want, a lot of people want to come to America, to work, then we can, and they can live here and be Americans just like you and me. We solved we didn't solve the problem. We kicked the can down the road. Immigration is just like kicking the can down the road.
Exactly my point. Yes, that's
sure, but like that's the result. That is our option on the table.
But don't you see that how that directly conflicts with your? I mean, I'm not trying to straw man you, but as far as I can tell, don't you see how that directly contradicts your goal of global communism? Like, how if we're headed in a headlong direction?
I want global communism, but not at the cost of hundreds of millions of human lives.
So a slow, steady industrialization where people just stop reproducing is more humane of a way to depopulate the earth, is kind of what you're saying.
No, I don't think it. No. So, okay, I'm not pro depopulation, yada yada yada. I think we do need to address this problem, not in any like sort of immediate sense. Like depopulation at a human level, like as humanity as a whole, is not an issue currently. As more and more countries industrialize, it will become more and more of a problem, and it is something that we should be addressing. However, the way in which we address these problems is very important, and right now, how we address it is immigration. It doesn't actually fix the problem. What it does is it kicks the can down the road, which is unfortunately the best we can do in this case, unless we want to deindustrialize and have untold human suffering because of the industrialization, because then we'll have more people than we can support, and then people will die.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm reading Sam and Flo in the thing, and their comments are pretty on point, I would say. But I do understand what you're saying, and I'm just pointing out, like, kind of what Flo said is kind of correct. I mean, it's like either way you go, whether you look at it from a French Revolution or Russian Revolution way of getting something done, or you look at the slow, steady, drive towards industrialization. The results are going to be essentially the same, where free choice base and free association is going to have to be limited to some degree, i.e.,
Also,
open borders and
it should be noted really fast. The French Revolution, was a capitalist revolution, not a communist. It's not comparable to the Russian Revolution.
I don't think the Jacobins were,
Rather, okay. So let me. I guess I should rephrase. That revolution is one of the but one of the boiling points that propelled the socioeconomic ideology of capitalism forward. The French Revolution, those ideals are those Enlightenment ideals are what propelled capitalism forward, and then the Russian Revolution was obviously that, but communism,
right?
And then they fucking failed.
Okay,
because the fascists took over.
That's an interesting argument, and I don't know exactly how to respond because I think that I do have a response, but it's going to be
the communists didn't win in the Russian Revolution. The fascists did. That is true. The Bolsheviks were not communists in any particularly.
Well, I think you can make the same argument with Mean Mr. Mustache, where it starts off as one thing and it kind of evolves into something else as you go along, and I think that's kind of how every revolution kind of tends to go, right?
Well, no. So there were communists during the Russian Revolution, but the Bolsheviks killed them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, you're saying so.
Yeah, the Russian Revolution was a bunch of different factions telling the Tsar to fuck off and blowing his brains out, and then the Bolsheviks seized power and started massacring the people who were quote unquote working with them.
I kind of agree with you, and I kind of agree with Flow State too, because I think that you're both right, and I don't think it contradicts each other. And this is kind of what I'm getting at. It's like
it can be a vehicle for fascism, yeah.
So
any political ideology can be a vehicle for fascism.
So this is the interesting thing. You're saying that Bolsheviks were not actual communists; they were actually fascists posing as communists.
Yeah, they were fascists painted red.
Right. So, but you see, when I'm not going to get back into the the borderline anti-Semitic stuff, but when you say you see the argument where it's people have one set of goals on the external way they talk, but they actually have internal goals that are different than what they state publicly. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I'm just making sure that that's clear, because I think that's kind of a lot of what I talk about is kind of alluding to that fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if it helps with the conversation at all, my intent is to make sure that I'm not hiding my power level. I'm not fucking dog whistling. I want to be as open and honest.
And me too in general, but sometimes I do employ rhetoric.
There's
crap
usually sometimes rhetoric,
but in general, I agree with you. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
And I'll be back on Wednesday. So
I appreciate
would love
the
it if I came back. And there's always the Discord to continue it on.
Yeah.
I'm having my men's group today at the top of the hour at, I guess, 6 p.m. Central. So if anyone wants to join that, just contact me for the link. Otherwise,
appreciate it.
Great chat. Thank you all for showing up.
Yep. Jeff, have a safe
trip. Please feel free
home.
to continue in the Discord.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk another time.
No, I've
and feel free to come back on Wednesday too.
Yeah, thank you for hosting, Jeff, and
thank you, absolutely.
And shout out to Sam and Flo and Lib. Good to talk with you again.
Good to talk to you again.
I'm glad that this is we can have contentious stuff, but I think that you and I and everyone that we are talking to, with the exception of people I won't name here, seem to be in good faith. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so too. I like our little community.
Yeah, I attempt to be
in
good faith as much as I can.
See you guys later. Bye bye.
See ya.
Yes, and what this thing he said right here, absolutely. That resonates with me as well. Okay, take care, everybody, and I will see you at 2 p.m. Central on Wednesday. We're going to go back to our daily time, 7 days a week, 2 p.m. See you then. Have a good tomorrow. And I'll play us out.